Welcome back, folks. I have missed you, Jay Howe, as we are finally here after a very, very long delay, after an entire update with the second round of preseason qualifiers for the ALGS Pro Leagues here in EMEA.
Yeah, having that extra week off, I think it was probably good for some other reasons. But overall, it also means teams have regrouped, revamped. Some of these teams probably strategizing, figuring some things out. I know we've got a lot to talk about around those things, but definitely excited after a week off. I've been waiting this whole time.
I know it has been really crazy, and I've been like catching tournaments here and there to see how teams are adapting, but now we really get to see how that comes through with the best of the best that we could get in these preseason qualifiers, the top 20 teams that have made it all the way back. Of course, a reminder that this is how the format is going to go. We're all the way in the bottom left here in the preseason qualifiers, right before Pro League Split 1, and if you're wondering, Jay, how would a team qualify for Pro League Split 1 out of the preseason qualifiers?
Well, the cool thing is we got 1 week out of the way, which means we got one team. If you win during one of these weeks, there are 4 weeks. If you win during one of those, you're automatically in. As far as the other teams are concerned, it's a matter of making it to finals days and getting points. Now, there's some other ways to get points, but you get points each week you're here. So if you were in week 1 and you got 5th place, then you're going to get X amount of points. And then the cumulative points after 4 weeks of the finals means that the top 16 teams that didn't win will fill out those other 20 spots to get into the ALGS.
So it's all about if you're not going to win, and of course that's the goal, but if you're not quite able to pull out that first place spot in 1 week, your goal is always going to be consistently making it to the finals in the 2nd week, 3rd week, 4th week, etc. Well, I guess not etc. It ends at the 4th week. With that in mind, of course, I'd like to talk a little bit about the teams that are returning today, because we've only got 6 teams that have come back in from the first preseason qualifier.
It is astounding to me, and I know that we've got NA later, but between both of the regions, the amount of turnover that we have, now there's going to be some teams that if they don't make it on here on Monday, something really bad happened. I think there's a couple of teams here in EU that we expected to be here. We knew that there was going to be some turnover. I personally did not expect this much turnover, but it is quite a story to see so many new faces in today.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that has to do with adaptations or how much is just parity at the very top level. You can see on your screens right now the list of teams that we have rejoining us. Of course, the ones that you'll recognize from last week are Astralis, Odin, Top Dogs, Kick, Clean, and my personal named favorite, Dead Inside.
Yeah, Dead Inside is one of our returning teams too, which the majority of those here at the top of our list are those teams. So everybody else is new. Thank you for the ordering, whoever worked on this graphic. But those 6 teams there at the beginning are the ones that you're talking about. So the big name, of course, coming in here, a team that was noticeably absent during week number 1, DM Major Pushers has now made it here. They did it in dominant fashion over the weekend. So that's a name that a lot of people are looking at today as well.
Yeah, I gotta say, Major Pushers, big favorite, and we were all extremely surprised, as you illustrated just then, that we didn't quite get to see them last 2 weeks because of some weird thing that happened in the semifinals. This time, semifinals were pretty decisive, and they were pretty decisive both ways around. Major Pushers obviously winning theirs, but there was another lobby in which Top Dogs were doing quite well at the same time, and I was concerned about Top Dogs in Preseason Qualifier 1 because they hadn't really managed to find the wins. They were getting high placements, but not converting, not getting a whole lot of kills. That is not a problem coming into today. They are one of the few teams that did secure back-to-back wins in the semifinals, and they are my upset team for the day. Not even upset, I would say. They're my favorite for the day because I think that they're coming in on an on week, and on an on week, I don't think anything can stop Top Dogs.
Yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent, right? Because you don't get in here by having a dominant day and then not carrying some of that momentum to today. It means that you've started to evolve, you've gotten there, but it is about that converting it to bigger and better things. And I think that the pacing of today versus yesterday, there's always a distinct difference. But at the same time, and I know you and I probably have some thoughts on this, but about the meta changes, EU, I think, kind of was the first to move in towards the newer meta. And we've started to see NA shift with the Octane nerfs. There has been some drastic shifts in the meta, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're having a lot of turnover for some of these teams as well. So I think meta changes are favoring different teams this week as opposed to 2 weeks ago during week 1 before that patch.
Yeah, I definitely want to see how much teams that lag behind have been punished. If we don't see anybody running Octane Bloodhound Gibraltar in the lobby today, I think that says a lot, because sort of relying on your comfort isn't even enough to get you into the finals. And a lot of these guys have changed things up. The Caustic has definitely become a favorite of a lot of teams, as you see that absolutely everywhere. But I gotta say that even things like the Valkyrie comboed with the Wraith are still team compositions that can hold their own as well. Caustic, I don't think, has cemented himself in the same way as Gibraltar has.
Well, one of the more interesting parts is the Caustic. We saw a few weeks ago in EMEA, that was a very noticeable change, that when we saw in North America later in the day, there was nowhere near as much. So I think EU is kind of first at the table with that. They've always been more Caustic heavy. If you look back historically, they've always found some way to incorporate it. And I think to the point of having a Valkyrie versus, say, a Bloodhound, you can scan. If you scan that somebody has gas cans in there, normally you're like, well, guess we just do nothing, you know, where if there's something else, you're playing off those scans, playing off that information. So normally where you see teams that run a Valkyrie that don't have a Bloodhound, yes, they have info on the beacons, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have info on pushing on a fight. And because there's so many Caustics, it doesn't matter as much if you have a Bloodhound, because there's not as much you can do with it. So I think those are some key things that we'll talk about throughout the day around the meta.
Yeah, we'll have to see, of course, what teams choose to run any sort of scans. I think that the crypto also is something teams were thinking about before, or in last preseason qualifier, and now might have a little bit more of a stable presence because of his ability to also deal with things like the Caustic in that way. If you do want to make a really aggressive push, I think that it's always a trade-off, though, because you feel changes in Legends a lot more in Apex than you do in other games, because a third of your composition, a third of your game plan has to be replaced by something, and that extra something has to be worth it. And right there you can see for Chiefs in the bottom center of your screen that crypto is definitely worth it.
Yeah, you know, and the crypto part, because there's going to be so many Gibraltar, Caustic, Valkyrie comps today. And the reason why that's important is because Gibraltar is a mainstay for these compositions to be that defensive character with the bubble, helps rotations, you can res, all of those things. But the key thing about the amount of cryptos that come in is as those zones close and you put that bubble down and a Jibby ults another Jibby, and then you put your bubble down, somebody can throw a huge wrench in that by hitting a crypto ult, an EMP, and canceling that bubble and making your life miserable, thus rendering Gibraltar useless in those situations.
And that hurts a lot. The other thing that hurts a lot is the Rampart, that I've only seen one team lock in so far, but I am very excited. As a Rampart main myself for way too long, before she was having a huge machine gun to carry around with her, these changes have definitely made me smile, and I want to see how much they can make these teams go to town.
You know, there's one other thing that I think is a very subtle change that's a very noticeable change. Harvester. Most people are like, oh, Harvester, that's fine. Harvester now has a beacon there that is much more common, which when you look at teams that generally have success, they're normally middle of the map teams because it's easier to rotate no matter the zone. Harvester didn't quite have that beacon the same way Frag East does. Now with that there, look for the teams that play more central to maybe have an advantage by having that beacon there. I know a lot of teams were talking about potentially contesting that going forward. We'll see as time goes on, but I think Harvester became a much more special point of interest.
I mean, it's the major pushers buff. It's where they land. It's where they've always landed. And now with that extra bit of information, you can see it really pushed them over the edge. I was going to bring this up because we got to talk about high highs, when you can take advantage of when you have good spots, good drops, and good positioning in Apex. That's when you can really soar, if you'll forgive the pun. And well, major pushers in their last game just yesterday got a 26 bomb, and that is the high that I want to see them replicate.
Look, if they can get that high in today's lobby, I'd say we're witnessing something special. And as far as witnessing, this zone has been very tough for a lot of teams. Now, Landslide doesn't offer near as much cover as maybe that we had seen before. So there's going to be some real estate within Countdown, some on that southern area of Fisher. But outside of that, there's not a lot. You have to get creative with head peaks, with corners, with maybe the truck that's going to be right in the middle of that zone. So with all of these defensive-oriented teams, you can get cover. And I saw a really funny tweet the other day. I believe it might have been by Rakanishio. Was talking about one thing that he learned was that caustic barrels make better traps or better turrets, defensive turrets, than rampart walls. And I thought that was really funny, but it is a way to utilize caustic at times to sometimes just cover a few pixels, little body length, and make sure you're covered.
It's absolutely true. We see it happen a little bit too often. As well, it looks like some cover might be necessary, as already major pushers are fighting just as rotations start to come in. Now they're not under a whole lot of threat. They hold the high ground, and Flavor of the Month definitely doesn't want to push them, or rather the one team that has the Flavor of the Month tag, as we'll see who's under them soon.
Yeah, holding this building here in staging, I think a lot of people like to hold on to that. We have Odin Gamers nearby. They're going to get some poke in. 2x Wingman, great at this distance. Although, hold on a second.
It's Weeb's out under them, by the way. It seems like another team has been coming in. They've got some of the best shields in the area and should be running this area of staging for the next little while, as the team on the underside of staging has gotten themselves a little bit of a reprieve. Weeb's out is going to be safer for now. Odin Gamers already inside of the ring have an interesting spot to hold, and I know that you and I have seen this spot be played out many a time, but up here inside of the cart on the train tracks is actually a surprisingly versatile place to stake your claim on, especially when it starts getting closer and closer to endgame, because you're very difficult to push, but you've got a lot of options for how you move into the ring.
Yeah, the cart, the trucks, if you will, always have good defensive areas. And the reason they're good, look, they're terrible if you get just naded out, right? And with so many caustics, you can get caustic ulted. There's a lot of caustics, so one person can theoretically live there. But the reason why they're generally so good is because that spot right there, or even the one slightly to the north out in the open in the grass, those areas are open. That's a corner that everybody's going to have sight lines on. So if you don't make your way into that truck quickly, you're just going to get shot by the rest of the teams. That's where the frustration lies. That's actually going to be a knock there. And this is what I'm talking about. Being here on the corner, that's going to be clean. Our team that did suffer a knock, it looks like they're trying to get out of there, but they are being shelled right now. Dolphin down to about 30 or 40 health, and you can just see just nade after nade. They are in trouble, but this is why those corners are exposed to not just one team, but 2 and 3 and potentially more.
Yeah, so it somehow manages to live there. We'll see how long Dolphin can hold on, as Kick are, well, uninvolved in the action entirely. This is how they, weirdly enough, like to play these games. They are an edge team, and they can get quite high octane, but they like to go really hard edge and sort of move into zones that pull to this western northwestern side. They like to move into that all the way through, even thermal sometimes. And so seeing them take their time here and encounter resistance is something that they're going to be a little bit unused to, as we're finally getting some more knocks in the kill feed, and it's Astralis, one of our returning teams, making their mark.
Yeah, as far as the few teams that we have, it's nice to see that a lot of the teams that were doing well in the previous week are out here making a name for themselves. And you know, we talk a lot about consistency. If you can just, I mean, it feels like with the amount of turnover, Dia, that if you can just get into each of the 4 weeks, then that should be enough to get top 16. So if you can make it here, which it's not easy by any means, but it is a statement, I think. I really, I know we talked about it earlier, but I did not expect this much turnover between the week 1 and week 2.
It is definitely something that I think shows us the high level of competition that we've got. But even with that high level of competition, it's worth noting that First Blood has been taken, and Astralis, they are the ones to do it, as they remove our very first squad from contention today in the second round of the preseason qualifiers. Kick, they might be looking for a second, as they've got someone cornered here outside of the ring, but haven't quite been able to find their own knock yet, as they try and grief these doors, land some arc stars. We'll see if Hyarka, Uako, and Origin's name can take him out.
I am very curious on how many people are in here, because it looked like Kick was the one that was split, and now they're the ones that are kind of forming around this, making a concave, trying to keep whoever's in there trapped. You have to imagine that's a full team. It'd be very upsetting if a whole team was split, but whoever's in there seems like an animal with their back against the wall, like they're trying to fight back and just trying to get out of here.
Yeah, what you talk about, though, this sort of positioning from Kick definitely tells me a lot about their confidence moving into this match. They're still feeling like they can bomb out. They did really well in quarters and may not have had a massive performance in the semis, but have been still a very consistent team when it comes to getting going early. And I think that sort of momentum can take them far as, well, now we find out why everybody was so back and so cornered, because they had a Valkyrie to take them all out to safety this whole time.
That's the joy of having a Valkyrie, is it changed the way that teams can rotate. And as the metas changed, normally it was Wraith or Octane to be able to rotate from point A to point B in the middle of a fight. Now it just seems like repositioning is the name of the game and playing much more comfortable. Valkyrie, we wondered how much she would impact the meta months ago. Now we're seeing that her impact continues to escalate despite no changes to her. It's just all the characters around her.
Yeah, and welcome back, by the way, to Dead Inside, as they managed to escape that, as we're going to see another scan come through as well. This is a little bit of a different team comp. They still got that Valkyrie that you talked about being so valuable. They still got the Jibby, but they're running the Loba at the same time, and Loba is something that I enjoy, but it's definitely a risky pick. It can give you a lot in the end game, but there's a chance it falls flat on its face.
Here's that truck out in the open that I was mentioning, and you can see with Uprising moving in, they got some nades in, but unless you get some serious impact on those nades, you can't push, which makes them great defensive areas. And we did see a defensive bombardment actually get a takedown and a thirst onto Aiton, but it's no fear that's in here. You can be in here and you can hold these areas. They don't have a caustic. But as long as you don't take serious damage, it's really hard for people to come into you. Now, when it does become exposed is when, say, from Countdown, when that zone starts to come in, these teams get desperate for places to move into, but they also don't have as many people shooting at them. That's when these trucks get real crazy to defend.
Yeah, our zones last time for highest action were in between zones 3 and zones 4 so right now, as we get into zone 2, we're not necessarily expecting, J-How, for everybody to just be beating each other up, to be taking these kill points right now. You're poking, you're making sure that your position is safe, but what would you say are the main focuses for this sort of early game for a lot of these teams? Because to me, it feels like it's all about just putting yourself in the best position.
Yeah, we'll take a look at this fight here.
Well,
that was nasty by Tycoon, by the way. He did not miss a shot and took about, I don't know, 10 health in the middle of that. This truck, this is one of those trucks I'm surprised it gets pushed this early, but Chiefs have done it cleanly. That's what has to be done, and they have done it in spectacular fashion. There's one member left. But as far as where the teams are, everybody's trying to get a read on it. We saw major pushers. They had a scan. They decided to stake their claim into staging. They know that they can hold that position, and if it does move north, they have cover along the wall in those areas that they can move into. So all these teams are going to – nobody wants to be dead in the middle of the circle because of what we just saw, because there's going to be people pushing into those. But it's establishing an area that limits the number of pushes, but also gives you sight lines to build up those shields and different matters around that. So it is really about limiting the amount of exposure you have to the rest of the map while positioning yourself well going into the final zones.
Now you will have noticed just then that Odin Gamers technically not out of it yet either. Despite the fact that they got pushed, despite the fact that was taken for them, we've still got Aiton playing for positioning on the low ground, trying to hold out under this bridge that should become a very contested area. In North America, playing the underside of that bridge is a must-do, and right now, there's only one person holding it down. So, it's still a free spot to any team that wants to come in. As round 2 closes, though, we're going to get an idea of where that third one will pull and whether the bridge will still be a valuable spot.
Yeah, that right there is a prime example. We actually, luckily, nice observing here. We get a sneak peek at the next one. It is moving more towards that corner. So as you said, under that bridge should be a team. It's actually surprising not to see a team under there. I think that's probably more surprising. I mean, I love that you brought it up, but I'm like, hold on now, somebody should be in that spot. At the same time, it could be like the hill over to the east of staging where it's not good to be there early. I think that one's a little bit safer. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how these teams end up playing it out. A lot of this, though, is going to force people on the outside a little closer together. Teams like Kick are going to have to push in through teams like Major Pushers, and we see some of that action to the south. We see some of it to the north at the same time. Uprising currently have the most northerly position. Now, I will say, Jay Howe, I had this joke planned. We don't talk about this team.
Okay, fair, fair. I am on board with this.
It only seems like the correct amount of respect to be given. We'll see how much they pop off, as right now we got some popping off going up on the other side of the map. Yet another push into a truck. Does not go nearly as well this time, although No Fear have lost their Gibby, have lost their safe rotation. Instead, need to burn that Wraith portal to get out of the truck. They end up losing 2 instead, and Shex popping the shield cell is the last member left alive. Gonna need to try and go back and grab those banners if he wants his teammates, and he might have the chance. Uprising, they're under a lot of fire as well. Still have full shields inside of this truck, though, and are relatively safe for now.
This is what happens. One team forces the fight, and they got a knock, and they ended up losing that fight pushing in. But then everybody else around it says, well, wait a minute, we see in the kill feed they're trading. That's when you start to see that cascading effect of one team goes, then another team goes, then another team goes. No Fear held, but they lost one, and so they had to give it up, and then they ended up losing a second. And then another team came in, and the team that goes in, a lot of teams feel that that's griefing at times. I think that just teams get desperate for real estate. And so a team that pushed there, they ended up going out early, but that did impact No Fear. So No Fear probably thought we had a good spot. They ended up having the rough end, and now Uprising has taken over.
Yeah, they managed to find, some nice kills for themselves, but other than that, it's really just about the spot, where this is a surprising position for Shex to be taking as he runs completely out in the open, looking for a spot to hold down. Red Dragon, who were thinking about contesting Major Pushers, now must think better of it, while still having to relocate inside of that next ring, as round 3 is closing, and now they've got to go through the tunnel if they want to make it in safe at all. They still got that Valkyrie ult to use, but we take a look over at Astralis, and they are finding some knocks of their own. It seems like they're finishing off what should be the rest of Clean. Dolphin knocks back 1 and 2, though, and it's all up to Patmir. See if he can do it inside of the bubble. It seems like it's going to be Astralis winning, but I don't think they can hold out as defensive bombardment comes down behind them, and they are reduced to just 1 member.
Yeah, I mean, getting just outside of cover, nobody wants to go out this early. There's 16 teams left, but this is what makes this zone so hard, Dia, is that there's just not enough places. I believe we saw a Valkyrie ult go off just beside there, which brings into consideration what Red Dragon was able to do. It was the Valkyrie that ended up being in trouble, so did they have ult? Could they go out? There's so many things that happen here as we go. As you said, a lot of action happens between zone 3 and 4. I'm surprised that there's not more teams down, but I also am not surprised that it's 16 squads and 40 people left, which means that some teams managed to salvage a bad situation, and now there's going to be a lot of rats trying to find their way in.
Yeah, it's all about poking you from the side and being in those unexpected places as well, which is what makes pushing through open ground so ridiculously difficult. You're not just going to be pushed by one team, you're going to be pushed by a lot of them, and hey, Patmir, unfortunately, 1 less rat there, and another kill point for Kick as they ended up grabbing that. Will push Astralis out of the running in 16th place for today, and that is for a returning team, not where I thought we were going to be going.
Yeah, I tell you, if you like excitement, this zone pulls real heavy to the west, which means there's going to be a lot of fighting going on, and we normally see a lot between 3 and 4 and between 4 and 5, but there is almost nowhere to go going in. So everybody's trying to get it out of the way now. Everybody's desperate for real estate, and there is not much on the west side of that cliff. We are 3 seconds away. That 14's about to go down to about 6 or 7.
You know, all planned, almost losing a member right there, are going to survive. The last member of No Fear fighting for his life as well as the flatline, and plenty to work with for right now. Seems to have fended off the push, but this is a tough spot if anybody sees you. You are almost assuredly going down to an Arc Star stick. See if these cells come in time as 0-0 pushes past them, and it's all about observing the chaos in front of you for as long as you possibly can. Uprising, one of the few teams still operating on 3 members, also have a little bit of a difficult time moving inside of this next ring where every spot seems to be taken, and they've got to go on an aggressive push. They have that Gibraltar. Where are they going to use the dome? Who are they going to push up on as we approach what should be a very deadly time in a lot of teams' lives?
Wow, they are going to play just inside of the zone here. They have ways out. They have a Valkyrie. We don't yet know if they have the ult, but they can always stay there for as long as possible and fly over. Meanwhile, the kill feed's starting to ramp up down to 12 teams. A lot of teams moving in here, so we can see 0-0 getting the knock. And all of the teams moving in, they are starting to find a home in just anywhere where there's head peaks.
Pointed out 0-0. Remember, it's part of my favorites. Top dogs here today. Let's see if they can do it. Kick are showing up big as well, though, and something that I like saying about Kick is that if they're not fragging out, they're likely not winning. Seeing this team get momentum early is huge. And Uprising, they may have just had their momentum cut right out from under them. We'll see how they fare in the kill feed later. Chiefs also playing the edge right there on the side, not involving themselves in the action just yet, trying to wait it out until we get to those 10 squads, and we're only 1 squad off.
No fear. I like seeing right dead smack in the middle. Shex is just hiding in there. Remember, that's the rat that's hiding right in the middle. Here's Fight Club, the team you said we couldn't talk about. I think now's the time to break down that wall. This is Rampart, who has all the defensive walls up, double stacked. They have a prime position to look down. They aren't, however, in the zone. So will we see Sheila come out here for the final zone and start mowing some people down from up high?
That's something that, I mean, a lot of pro players have been talking about whether or not you can seriously use Rampart's ultimate still in the later stages. Right now, yeah, it seems like Sheila not going to be the game plan, but they still gotta move. Everything is keeping them pushing, moving inside of this ring, and already having lost 2, this may just be the end of the legendary Fight Club as they end up falling in 10th place. We move to top 10, and Kick, they're the ones raining down fire from above, from below, from every angle.
Kick not only is doing that, but they are the kill leaders, and they have been fragging out. They have the top position in the game right now, so look for them to try and pick off all the fights. Arcstar is going to go down to try and get some damage, or at least scatter the roaches. They're getting the shots. Uako is actually going to get very aggressive. That's going to be the death of Loba. See if they can finish that up, but it is Kick who is dominating lobby number 1. See if they can close it out as we approach the final zone.
Insane from them, and they have full control of this side of the map as yet another 2 kills fall into their hands. They've still got Valcult to work with. They've still got that Wraith portal as well, but it's just all about finding flesh on the other side as 6 squads remain. They've got an entire ultimate to farm for ammo as well. This is so good for them.
I mean, keep in mind, there's 5 other teams, but there are only 8 people between all of those. Kick has the full squad. This is their game to lose. Not only do they have all this KP, but now they might be the only 3 stack that's left, meaning that they have all the advantages and they have positioning. This is Kick making a major statement here in game 1. I will not be surprised if they come out with 10 or 15, or excuse me, 15 kills towards the end of this if they start picking everybody off when this closes in.
Yeah, we got to expect right now that with how gassed up they are, that they should be in position to take this one. Oracle will stand before them, though, as yet another full 3-man squad, still with plenty of loot to work off of, and their push has to be perfect, but they have the Caustic, they have the Gibraltar, a lot of these tanky, zone-controlling fellas as we get into this last zone should be even more valuable because they can simply cannot right now.
Yeah, and they don't have to move in as far. They do have to crest over that wall. That's their major crux on the other side, and Kick is going to play. They are the one team, or one of the few teams, running a Wraith, so they'll have the portal dance at least. That also gives them position. Meanwhile, Oracle trying to deal with some rats on their side. So we've got 2 full teams and a couple of rats. So right now it's between Oracle and Kick. We'll see if anybody else can sneak in and get some, but Oracle taking a lot of damage.
Is this another rat or is this a full team? That's the question on everybody's mind. Is it looks like it's at least 2 members that are absolutely pushing Kick right now. We're trying to invade up in the high ground. Both domes end up getting dropped, but nobody's actually gone down yet. Hyarka's Peacekeeper really does a lot of work. They end up dropping down to the low ground, and Kick are going to try and play for this low control. Make sure that nobody else can drop down here with them. It's risky because people can just jump down and take them out with shotguns, can throw nades at them. But right now, I think they're betting that those ordinances, they are all out at this point. It has been a knockdown, drag-out fight to get to the top 3, and now Oracle need to make their push.
Oracle has the tools to do this. See if they have the caustic ult. That's the major factor in all of this. Oracle, they are seconds away from having to drop down. With that at their back, that's going to be the rat out. Shex made it all the way to 3rd place. Big pickup for them. But now it is going to be Oracle and caustic time. Bubble down on the bottom, and that's going to be the knock. Kick actually going to go down, trying to push up into that. And now it's Oracle with only one member left. It's going to be Kick. Uako is the one with the 301, and that's actually going to hit. And Kick is game number 1 champions. What a clutch play there by Uako.
Oh my lord, that shield swap was almost pixel perfect as well. I have never seen somebody pop off so much, and I've seen Uako play before. These guys have bombed lobbies before, but I said in the middle of the game, if they're not fragging out, they're not winning. They fragged out, and by God, JL, they won.
I cannot wait to see the totals after game number 1. I mean, having one big game in a 6-game period can be enough to propel you to potentially getting that top spot this week and a spot in ALGS. And they just dominated. You talked about their playstyle very early in the game. We saw them all the way at Tree. I mean, they rotated up. You said they sometimes like to rotate through thermal. It's no surprise that we went away and came back. And guess what? They had that choke over there to the west of staging. You read that perfectly, and we saw what it did for them. The zone ended up being very favorable, but they earned it. They fought their way in. They got those kills on that southern area in the no-name side. They had great positioning. They were aggressive. I mean, that is as complete and perfect game as you'll see in Apex Legends.
Yeah, really, really amazing stuff. And I'm happy to see that it's paid off for them after a little bit of a rough semifinals. They've really pushed into the finals with a good start. But we've still got 5 games left to go. 5 games where other teams can start to rise up and challenge Kick. Let's see how big of a lead Kick have gotten, and if other teams can challenge them after a short break. Welcome back, ladies and gents, to the second game now of the EMEA Preseason Qualifiers number 2. J-How, game 1, it was pretty wild. I know we saw a lot of kills racked up. Are you excited to see how many points that turned into?
That was a monster game. So yes, I actually have not peeked at it despite us having access. So I'm very eager to see it.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and bring up the scores real soon. It's no surprise to anyone. Kick, holy moly, first place, almost killing a third of the lobby, J-How.
That is impressive. It's really hard to kind of put everything else into perspective when one team dominates, but I do want to point out one important thing because I feel like it's very subtly one of the best things to happen. No Fear got third. Shex, they were one of the early teams to suffer deaths on their team. I think when there were 16 or 18 teams left, Shex had to rat it out. He got right into the middle, got third place. So they got a little KP plus third. Now, this doesn't seem like a lot, but in the grand scheme of 4 weeks, every point, every placement, every game matters. So the fact that they got 11 points keeps them within contention for the day. Not a bad start. And they salvaged what otherwise could have been a disastrous game.
Definitely so. I'm keeping an eye, of course, on the teams that I was favoring coming into the day. Top Dogs ended up landing themselves at 5th, and Major Pushers, I think, surprised all of us with a 12th place finish. I'm still expecting a lot from this team, and, of course, getting your feet under you as you drop into these, I'll say, a little bit chaotic lobbies, especially for the first game, can be very strange, but I'm expecting bigger things from both of those teams, and Kick has certainly shown that they're a titan to be conquered. Let's see if these teams can do that coming into game 2.
Yeah, when you talk about Major Pushers, the narrative for them was they land Harvester. They now have a beacon that's there with the latest update, and they ended up taking that building in staging. Now, while that is a good place, it's a very good stronghold, when the zone does pull to the left, you're now fighting uphill a little bit. You're now fighting to the west in a lot of chokes if you choose to play underneath. And I think that's where they struggled, was making that transition from zone 3 to 4 and then 4 to 5, because they put themselves in staging, but the zone pulled. So it wasn't necessarily a bad zone read. They used the information that they have with the beacon, but the zone ended up pulling much further west and caused them some problems.
Yeah, definitely so. Like the zone is something that is sort of this fickle god as we get further and further into the lobby, and you'll notice that the teams will start consistently, as they play more and more against each other, start consistently winning very specific zones. When things pull, for example, all the way into the west, Kick should have a relatively consistent performance, even if they don't top the lobby.
Wait, they're being contested.
Oh, are they? Oh, my lord.
I'm like looking right at the middle. I'm like, hold on, that's a few more there. So Harvester, that's one member from, okay.
It's a little greed loot, but it's not
It
not
is,
anything
but
massive.
they're being shot at. So I want to know, somebody's dead.
It's big now. We'll have to find out who that is, or what team ended up landing in staging quite soon. I thought you were talking about Kick for a second, and I was like,
sorry, yeah, there's somebody down in the kill feed. We're trying to get there now. Here we go.
Well, I guess we'll have to find out later. We'll take a look at the team in staging. Production, please. I'm excited to find out what ended up happening on that end. Major Pushers, though, only losing a little bit of shields and having 1 KP. It's not a bad deal for first land.
Not bad at all. I mean, you come out of there, a little KP, purple, and 2 blues. I'd say that's a success. Not only that, but you are the team. We do have a scan. It looks like it's going to be further north, so a much different look this game, Dia, than game number 1.
This is going to be something that is easier to control for teams that, say, land in Climatizer, for example. This zone inherently does favor that sort of positioning because you get to, in a way, play the edge of the zone for free. You have an entire zone, or an entire POI to your back that nobody else will have landed in unless you were contested on drop. And so I look forward to seeing how they end up playing that. Teams like Clean, though, this is where they want to be making their very quick moves. Early on, it's 1 minute 30 left until the close of the ring, and because they are so close to this ring, they can play center in a way that almost nobody else can.
You know, the thing about Clean is that they didn't have the best week number 1. They didn't perform very well during finals, but they were there, and they're there again today. So they're one of the few teams that is going to be here, so they can accumulate points, which is what you need to do. If you're not going to be winning, which we all know that this team in particular is very capable of winning, but if you don't, then you're going to have that opportunity by being here week in and week out. They do have kind of the mid area, but it looks like they chose to reposition here, Dia.
Yeah, it's good for them, I think, to take a little bit of a slightly easier to hold spot. It seems like they're pinging out the area by Climatizer right now. You can hold the building off to their left that also ends up getting pinged, and that's something that will keep you in the game for a very long time. They can already see that their rotation was contested by another Valkyrie squad, and another couple folks coming up from Climatizer, so fortunate to have gotten there early, where Major Pushers, they're fortunate in a very different way. They ended up getting that Vault Key off the Harvester drop, so not only have the single KP, but also now some nice additional loot to herald them into the mid-game.
Just like to point out, Ranches is rocking a Hemi. Every so often, the Hemi, like we saw the minor change to the hipfire. Other than that, there's been nothing else. I wanted to talk about this building. I did not expect. Oh, this is survey. This is full fight mode for some early real estate in survey.
Astralis.
Astralis.
You don't challenge them. Don't do that.
They took that handedly.
It was the second game we see that in a row as well. Teams want to fight them in survey. Astralis is, well, happy to do that. Unfortunately, it seems like nobody is contesting cleanup here, leaving them to run their kingdom up in the north. They've got not only first zone, but second zone as well. Plenty of ammunition to work with, and a caustic Gibraltar that should keep them in control of this building. Now taking a look down at survey once again. We've got another team right off to the side of the Astralis that previously won, and it's ATK, our team that has two players, interestingly enough, from South Africa.
A global game, to say the least. You know, I want to talk about that building that Kalina's in, the one on the ridge there. With that being added, and when you have a caustic, it's much easier to try and hold that, but it means you can pop out and get a lot of poke on teams coming up or coming down, and you can be involved. And that's normally the spot where you're not going to pick up a lot of KP unless other teams are fighting around you. The problem that you have with that is later in the game, those teams need somewhere to go. They might just pop in your front door and ask if they can have a seat, and that might not be the conversation you're looking to have.
It's one of the reasons why I think like the push works well, specifically because they have the caustic, because he can sort of dissuade those or turn them in your favor. Right now, the thing that is concerning me, sort of in addition to that point, is the fact that they don't really have the shields to back this up, and there aren't fights for them to farm off of next to them. Chiefs holding up here in Epicenter, another spot that tends to draw a lot of attention. We'll see if these two teams end up poking each other out to farm up the shields, as Tycoon needs some of his own. I think we did see a Valkyrie ult. I think that might have been Kick.
This spot in the top of Epicenter, it's like, if you want damage and no KP, sit up in top of Epicenter, because that's pretty much what happens. Is as good of a position it is, don't get me wrong, it's great for playing the late game. It's just really hard to find kills while being up there.
Noblesse, they also looking for some kills of their own. Aren't going to find too many sniper angles inside of the train tracks, but for right now, need to watch their backs, as Oracle is on their west, and on their east is Astralis, who do end up liking to hold a lot of that northern zone. We already saw that in survey camp, but a difficult push no less, as Astralis, this is where they land. This is their home, and you don't mess with somebody's home. Oracle still waiting, though, for the team in train tracks or train to be focused elsewhere.
I really hope they're waiting for somebody to come up the zip line, because that would be even more of a highlight. But this position that Uprising is in is a dominant position. It is almost unpushable by any team, and if the zone does pull towards survey or even further north up towards them, it is God's spot for late games. It looks like they have somebody flying over them. It will likely maybe take the carts or one of these high grounds, but alerts have been put out. There's a sighting of a Valkyrie.
Ooh, they actually end up landing inside a survey and somehow, some way, have the only building that was unoccupied. That was an extremely risky Valkyrie ult, as now we finally get the chance to take a look at Cake. Seems like it wasn't them earlier, as they were much more south than I had anticipated, but making their way in no less, as they've got very little KP compared to last game, but I'm sure that's something that we can remedy, given the fact that they've got plenty of loot. Making their way in no less, as they've got very little KP compared to last game, but I'm sure that's something that we can remedy given the fact that they've got plenty of loot to back them up here, and a gold R9 is going to do you a lot of favors in the late game.
You know, I don't know what it is. I go in and out of love with the R9. Oh, Shex, careful peeking there. I go in and out of love with the R9 compared to the Volt, but lately I've been going back to the R9 again this season. And the fact that there's a gold one, I've been very happy with it. Every time I watch Madness play, I'm like, I should play the R9. And then I play the R9. I'm not as good with it, but it still hits pretty good. And I love it that we got the gold R9 this season.
I feel that in a big way. Taking a look up at the kill feed, of course, we've got some teams that end up falling 3 jabronis, lose several members and might just have lost everything, but major pushers want to make sure that they can finish the job on any squad that they engage. Now jumping over the wall, looking for kills on the edge of zone, playing this for the high KP, already have 2, but need to get this snowball rolling in a really big way as they're about to enter inside of a zone where they don't really have a place.
Yeah, we saw earlier teams that were holding on the north side, that zip line. So Astralis was up there. We know teams have already flown up and over. So major pushers will have some resistance. And if Astralis is still holding that corner, that could be fun little fight right there. But we actually get a look at the next zone here finally, as it's pulling more towards Epicenter.
Hey, all right. Now that Epicenter real estate really starts to come into play. This is the investment that almost never happens. It always feels like whenever I jump into Epicenter, the zone pulls away. But if you are up there, man, you are ecstatic right now.
I hear you like Epicenter, Dia.
I do. I love playing Epicenter. It's a very pretty zone. I'm
on a scale of 1 to 10, how often do you land there?
8, I think. World's Edge. I enjoy Epicenter, and I enjoy playing from the north as well. It gives you a lot of options. That whole area that you talked about up there is quite easy to get to if nobody's had the chance to take it away from you just yet. And right now, well, we're about to see just how crazy the north can get, because everybody's gonna have to move down from survey just by a little bit, but to a place that has not nearly as many buildings.
With all of those teams in survey, they lack resources to get a beacon scan unless you've got a crypto somewhere. So that's very rare. So all of the teams that are in survey, they're going to have to make their way over towards Epicenter. Now, they'll be able to stay in position for a short period of time, another zone, potentially 2, depending on where you're at. But all of those teams in survey, you mentioned the teams to the north, we're going to find out who's going to be the king of the north just to make it out of there. They're going to have to go through a complete zombie of teams, an army of teams, to get out of there just to make it in. And survey, what a lot of people like to call a good place, is now going to be not a home for many teams.
Very much so. As round 2 starts to close, all planned, they've got one of the better spots up on the edge of Epicenter. High ground that is extremely difficult to contest, but we got to keep our eyes out for Valkyrie squads. I think that was a big theme of this preseason qualifier, is this time around, a lot of teams have adapted into the Valkyrie, and a lot of pro players were talking about how moving into the finals, they're expecting these more aggressive Valkyrie teams that fly push you to get punished a lot more easily. All planned are in perfect position to not only get pushed, but to punish that push if they're ready for it.
Astralis did meet major pushers up in the top. Ranches did get knocked and thirsted, and I believe another member just got knocked from major pushers. But we'll check back in on that. Zone 2 closing. Kick, the one holding the bridge, and this is similar to Epicenter as well. This is a good spot to hold. It's hard to generate kills from there, but they've put themselves in a great position with nobody at their back. Kick looking to make another run late into the game.
I will say, though, J-How, they're not fragging out just yet. And as we move into Zone 3, that's going to be my hard limit. They got to start getting at least 2 kills by Zone 3, or they're just not going to be warmed up for the later stages, because Kick really do love to skirmish, and they got to get that blood pumping. As we take a look over at Survey, the place that is soon to become what we expect to be a bloodbath. I can't wait to see what develops over there, as we've still got a lot of guys vying for position. Kick pretty safe in theirs, though, as nobody else is contesting this bridge.
The house on the hill is the big one. I don't know if they're trying to 3-2-1 this person, but yeah, they were trying to 3-2-1. I was gonna say they're sitting at 61 away from purple. You know they want that purple, but they were trying to get a knock there. It's gonna be hard. I mean, you can't really do much with a knock, but you're trying to take away their resources, disrupt what's going on up there. Seemingly should be able to get that. But that house on the hill, we actually saw them ping that. The house on the hill on top of that ridge is the one where they'll probably be able to get sight lines to maybe get some of that KP you were mentioning. But the teams to the north, however, they all are going to have to fight each other. They might as well get it out of the way now.
Seems like for right now, we've got Noblesse up here. They were facing down... Oh, I'm missing it right now as I don't have the names up on screen, but we'll see if they can make this rotation in. They do have the high ground right now, hiding behind the truck, but they don't have any real tangible cover from above. Defensive bombardment would force them out, as would any nades. Now moving in towards the circle, it seems like they're going to be able to get there relatively uncontested. But if we take a look at that kill feed, it seems like not everybody is finding themselves in the same position. Cleve has already fallen. It's going to be a tough time for them as major pushers lose another.
Yeah, they are just hurting all the way around. They had a rotation. They came out with the loot. They got the early KP, but they have not been able to find a home. We're 10 seconds away from round 3 closing, so a lot of the teams will move in here, Dia. Could see some action. There's still a lot of places to play, but it's zone 4 to zone 5, I think, where we're going to see a lot of action in this game. But don't be surprised if some of these teams see an opportunity of that team's down, we might as well push, and it could just be a major catalyst for some action.
Speaking of opportunity, that Valkyl definitely did not have the scouting to be certainly successful, and I want to see whether it ends up working out, as the reposition off of that we've already seen be risky today, but it hasn't yet failed any team. Kick for right now, don't have to rotate anywhere. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but have just found themselves a little bit of safety on the side. It seems like Weeb's out. They're the ones trying to punish. They end up finding Flesh in the sky, but don't find the drop.
That's impressive nonetheless. It looks like they drew some attention from others. Meanwhile, Uprising, they're going to be in a bubble fight. Jimmy Bubble's out. That's going to be the knock on one. Looks like Uprising doing a lot, trying to get fancy here with some no-scope longbow shots. Might not be needed as the rest of the team has come to the rescue, dealing with this bombardment. Oh, Shadow got clipped, but should be okay to recover here for Uprising.
All Cabal ends up going out over that contention on the high ground. Still without a safe place, though, is Uprising. As they get fired on from above once more. A Caustic ult goes down, which should buy them a little bit of space, but Shadow's now healed up, needs to win his 1v1, ends up getting a little bit of help from his friends, and knocks a Gibby, but that's just before he goes out himself, and to clean, no less.
Clean needs to rebound quickly. The rest of the teams, they want them to fight around them. Top dogs, they're trying to get some action in here. Jibby Bubble is not going to be enough for Top Dogs, or will it? Mimu, the only one left for them. Looks like that might be 4 people knocked on both sides here, so it could be fighting behind the knock shields. Mimu surviving with 1 health. It's not going to be enough, as that's going to be the death of that squad. Chiefs, meanwhile, still holding the top, trying to steal away some of that KP.
Seems like they've gotten the angle on it as well, but do want that loot. Have been expending resources time and time again from the top, and don't quite have a way to get to it just yet. Finally, though, abandoning that position in Epicenter, is they do need to get to a little bit better of a position inside of this next ring, under a lot of fire right now, but Funk somehow is alive. We'll see how long that lasts. Dead inside, right off the side of the bridge that Kick were inhabiting earlier, and now pushing the previous home of Clean. We'll see if Clean end up moving back there, or if they too have abandoned their previous home for a spot inside of the ring. But Dead inside, playing this very risky, that they're playing on the edge, but also out in the open.
That's 2 Jibby ults right there. The house on the hill is where it's at, and surprise, surprise, it's Kick who's in the house. This position right here is fantastic to move out of. They do have to hold on both ends here, one of them more threatening than the other, and it's Dead inside, who I believe Kick was getting involved, but it's Chiefs that's coming in for the cleanup. So Kick trying to hold the dominant position, but that's going to be the knock on Uako.
Now, we've seen Kick play with this before. It's
Oh,
difficult
no.
to play without Uako, but why are they running into this engagement? They lose one. Hyarka's the last one left alive. Now sitting here with a shotgun out. There is not anything he can do if he gets run up on. Half health already, no shields. Hyarka is playing for placement right now, and it seems like at least this other team has been merciful enough to let him exist.
Well, it's the Sheriffs. I am just really surprised at what just happened there. I know that was hectic. They kind of tried to play inside, outside to do some gatekeeping, but they weren't able to kind of be on the same page. And it's hard when you're being pushed from both sides, but I thought that they could hold inside. I don't really know what happened communication-wise, but our team in survey over here of Sheriffs, they'll have to fight their way up the hill soon.
Yeah, we'll see whose IGLing ends up coming out on top right now, as Sheriffs don't have a whole lot of information to work with. It's all timing, it's all game sense from down here in survey on the low ground, and they do still have that Valgult to use to try and get inside. But for right now, we've got to make sure that at least the surrounding area, the immediate surroundings, are safe before they end up pulling that one out. Double Arcstar ends up going out, but we have not yet seen anything, as it looks like in the kill feed, there was a nade that was worth a lot.
I saw that too. That frag nade just said, look, we're going to go ahead and finish you off, and it did just that. No fear, the team that ratted their way to third now has a full squad here in zone number 5, but it's Clean, the team that has moved in. They have caustic barrels. They have very little head peaks, but they do have them, and they are in zone. So they're hoping to pick up some of the KP of the teams that come in. They just have to make sure and keep their focus on a team like this that's to the south towards Epicenter. So they need to control this team while simultaneously watching the other side. It's very risky, but they are in, and we are 15 seconds away from this zone coming to close.
Pop the gas for reduced visibility as Dolphin holds up the back. Look at that fight, though. Astralis right in the center of it as well. Again, another double Gibraltar ult ends up going down, and it finds one. It looks like our South African team is about to be wiped out. Clean still holding on, find themselves attacked from the high ground, and Dolph needs to pop the bubble in order to survive. Gonna now have time to use the Phoenix kit. It seems like the spot that they were looking at earlier, they've now decided instead their biggest threat, it is their biggest ally. Clean go over to find some loot, now finding themselves in engagement with Chiefs. Nobody else assisting just yet. It's a straight up 3v3 until someone notices.
Well, we'll see if there's any nades to try and disrupt this. You know, they're checking those boxes looking for nades, but just looking for resources. And this head peak is good for very little time. There's a team up on the crane, so that's the head peak that they're playing behind here. Chiefs directly beside them on the left. Here's a look at them. Both teams are in the sight line of the team on the crane. So it's hard to fight each other when you've got one of the teams that's going to be shooting at both of you. So unlucky, disrupting some of that, but we're 8 seconds away from the zone starting to close. Is it going to be Clean? Is it going to be Chiefs? Which team can come out from this side, or will it be the team up on the crane taking out both of them?
They should have the dome right back up around now. Dolph might be able to use that to buy them a little bit more time, as Clean, they have theirs as well, but you can see the Wraith portaling out. You find a little bit of damage. It's not a portal to safety by any means, but it is a portal that you can dome out of, and there it goes. One knock already going down, though, as Hestia ends up finding it on Astralis. Unlucky, needs to disengage here, lest he be taken down by another squad, but Chiefs seem to have already met their fate, as one member ends up being almost taken down. Funk barely surviving right now. Last member alive on his team, but the chaos is enough that he is alive for just this little bit longer. Yet another dome, though, signals that Clean, their fight is not over just yet, and coming over to cover his friend. Knots ends up finding a little bit of safety. Nice gash to disrupt the push. Ends up finding Clean their slice of heaven, but the zone keeps pushing them in. The gas is doing work, and Clean are cleaning up.
Clean is down to one team left, and it looks like they've got the shot. That's going to be the knock. Hold on now. Clean with one member trying to get the armor swap, but it is going to be the Sheriffs coming in. They have taken over, and the team that rotated in from survey, the one team that survived, is the one team that does claim the King of the North.
Yeah, the Sheriffs, really nice play. We said that it had to be all game sense, all IGLing at the end, because they had very little actual angles to spot out what was going on. I think you just see all the teams full send it there, and you go, well, no better time to get involved. And the fact is that anybody could have taken it in the end there. I genuinely thought Clean was going to find the win just because of the cost of gas alone.
The cost of gas I thought was enough as well. I think maybe it was too early, but I think it was the call that you made, is that it was to disrupt the push from another team, but they ended up getting the kill so clean, if you will. They ended up getting that wipe fairly easily. Had they saved that, that's hindsight. You can never play off that. They had a fantastic game. They got second. They almost got first, but it's all about getting those points, and they did that. So I want to also commend Chiefs, by the way, for not just chilling up on Epicenter until the cows come home. They came down, they were active, they were aggressive. They did what a team that takes position and then moves down and fights for. That's what you want to see out of a team that takes a relatively not active position in Epicenter to come down and get that fight and to do that. So shout out to our top 3 teams. We'll have more to talk about it, I'm sure, but I just wanted to point those out. I think all 3 of those teams that finished top 3 all made very good plays in their best interest. It was a fantastic ending.
Yeah, the dominoes just ended up falling really well for Sheriffs, of course, and they definitely cleaned up in a way that deserved it. But as you say, I felt like everybody was playing at the top of their game, and it's only second game, which is really, really good because it means that we can get even more high-quality end games as we continue on. For right now, though, we're going to take a short break. We're going to do some math. We're going to see where the points ended up. We'll be right back with Game 3. Welcome back, folks. It has been the Kick Show. It has been the Sheriff Show. And Jay Howe, very soon we're going to find out who's going to be the third team to take that title. But before we do, we got to know the stakes for all of them, because you want to have the most points coming into the end of the day. And right now, well, we can see off of the last game at the very least that the points look pretty good for Clean, who ended up coming out, despite the fact they didn't finish first, still on top.
That shows the house on the hill can be dominant. It's like a point of attack that you could have, and they would go out, they would make rotations, and so there's excellent shot calling going on there from Clean to not only take that spot center of zone, but how to manufacture kills around that, which allows them for top points this game. I think that that's a huge testament to the way that that team plays and their potential.
Now, I have to say, I was checking in on this while we were looking over the board here. You remember I talked about major pushers and top dogs? They've literally swapped places. Top dogs are in 12th and major pushers are in 5th. Something's going on here. These two guys are clashing heads a little bit too much. They still haven't got that top spot, though. That top spot still very, very handily belongs to Kick. And interestingly enough, Chiefs end up getting in second, with the Sheriffs only third because they didn't get to pick up the extra 2 KP that would have pushed them into second place.
Yeah, and that's tough. I think when you look at the short term, which would just be today, you're trying to get first place to get that automatic qualifier spot. So getting a high placement below kill count is enough to get you by long term. So if you want to be one of the top 16 teams, get a lot of performances like that. If you want to be one of those teams that makes it in today, everybody dreams of having a game number 1 like Kick did, with a ton of kills and 31 points and all that. Like those are what you dream about. Those are unrealistic to have every game or even twice in a 6-game period. So for Sheriffs, if they are playing the long game, I think that this is a perfect game for them. If they're looking to play into this week and next week and the following week, perfect game. But you do kind of wonder if that type of play is sustainable, because we've already seen so much turmoil and turnover from these teams week in and week out from week 1 and week 2. So it's a good sign now. We'll see if they can keep it up.
Yeah, very high risk in a way, which sounds odd because you are just collecting points. You are playing quite well when it comes into the finals, but as to whether you'll actually make it into the finals, we've already seen a lot of teams that we expect to not quite be able to make that cut coming into, like you said, week 2, and even week 1 had some surprises in it. So I don't know whether that's a safe bet yet. We don't know the meta of the preseason qualifiers just now, and I, for one, I'm looking at that short term. I'm looking to see if Kick can hold on, because as high of a high as they had in game 1, they got to mitigate those low lows as well. And game 2 just did not look, I mean, I guess it's kind of obvious to say it didn't look the same. It did not look like they had nearly the same level of coordination in game 2, was what it ultimately came down to.
Yeah, that bridge, I think, is a trap. I've seen very little success from teams that play that bridge. And the reason being is that if it's one of the zones that pulls to the east, there's very little cover. There's a few boxes and a truck down below. Going west, there's nothing, which is why we saw the hesitancy. And, you know, it's hard to stay on that because of all the action going on. But there's like one box there on the western end. Outside of that, there's nothing. There is literally nothing. Where there used to be little rocks and little peaks there, maybe those spring up in a future patch, I don't know. But right now, rotating west out of there into a zone is brutal. You have no cover. You either have to go down one side or go down on the north side, and there's not a lot of climatizer zones. So I think that that area, to me, and I've seen a lot of games, any team that holds that position, it's a trap, man. It really is. It's like fool's gold. It's like, oh, we're safe for now, but nothing ever pulls there. So where do you go? It's rough, man. It's really
the house
rough.
or bust. It's the house or bust. Because I think we can agree that, like, at the very end, once you get off the bridge, you know, house actually ends up being a really nice rotation point for a lot of teams. Very clearly, ended up working out for Clean. Whether it's results-based analysis or not, you guys can debate. But definitely something that is worth looking at if we get another northern zone. The thing that I do really like, though, is that on the other side of the lobby, we saw a lot of teams that were very comfortable playing inside of Survey and actually held out from excessive bloodshed for a very, very long time. We had a lot of teams coexisting there, and as difficult as that can be, it makes me really happy to see that everybody is at least practiced in that zone, because we don't get a whole lot of northern zones.
I like how you call it excessive bloodshed, because when that zone closed in, only one team from the north side, from Uprising and Astralis that were up there, they all had to filter into Survey, and they all slowly had to filter out of Survey. There was more than excessive bloodshed
That
coming out
choke
of
was
there.
rough, dude.
That was crazy.
Yeah, coming into survey looked really good for a lot of teams, and I kind of wish that we get another northern zone as well, because I want to see if it pulls up towards the bridge over by the train tracks that you talked about, that really dominant position where it comes to a peak at the high ground of the train tracks. Yep. What that ends up being played like, because we had a lot of teams sort of splitting real estate in that area, and definitely a lot more control now that everybody's used to the landing spots. Because that's the other thing, is that coming into today as the finals, we've been in 2 different groups for semifinals, and even before that 4 different groups for quarterfinals. This is the time where you use these first 2 games, you get a read on who is dropping where, and now you're able to predict the way that they're going to play. If you're landing next to Lava City, you expect to be pushed by Kick. If you're landing next to Harvester, you don't land in Harvester right next to major pushers. These are lessons that you will learn over the course of the day.
Yeah, that was a very weird start of last game, and I think that lesson was learned pretty quickly.
Yep.
And so we won't see something similar to that, but it is always telling how things play out. You know, you mentioned the meta, and I still think that EU, I think, had a jump on the meta during week number 1. We saw more of the Valkyrie, more of the Caustic. It's NA, and I know that's a whole nother story for later in the day, but I think this meta, they've adapted a little more, a little quicker. We'll see how it continues to play out, though.
Yeah, we're jumping into the character selection screen right now, so I'm not expecting the comps to shift up too much, although I am really hoping that teams that have picked things like the Crypto and the Loba and not found success end up holding on to them, because I really do believe that they can be useful in those sort of end game scenarios, though we haven't seen them really come out clutch just yet.
Well, you're still going to get the Loba from Top Dogs, apparently.
All planned, they're running it as well. And hey, even Fight Club, they're holding on to the Rampart. I am over the moon that at least that has continued. I believe we had 2 different squads running the Rampart in game 1, and definitely that's dropped off a little bit, but being able to set up the walls, especially with the Gibraltar, that gives you a little bit of safety, in a way, can take a lot of space. I want to see if that ends up working out, because right now, Fight Club, they have not had the best run today, and still need to have their even breakout game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rampart just requires specific areas, specific zones, and when there's so many variables that determine on whether the character is good or not, that means the character's not very good. It's not that they're bad, it's just that they're only good in certain situations. So I agree with you. I'd be surprised if they keep running it, but if they do find success in a zone that does favor them, now all of a sudden you're like, hey, it does work. And so you kind of have that confirmation bias if the zone is in your favor. But back to survey area we go.
Let's go. I'm very happy. Hey, we'll be pulling up towards the north, though, so we're likely going to get, I think, something sort of in between Fragment and the train tracks this time. Sort of that pit stop that the train can make up in the northwest. Seems to be where this zone would go, but hey, we'll see where it ends up pulling. Is Dead Inside take the traditional dome landing right now, a little bit late due to the pathing, and have a lot of ground to cover as well, so let's loot up and hustle, boys.
Yeah, that area you mentioned, the pit stop area where the train is, that cart there, and then the giant, I guess, rock jutting, however we want to call it, that goes there. Those are great spots. But the truck there is similar to the other trucks. It's hard to push, but when it does get pushed, you'll normally see 6, 8, 9, 10 death boxes in there, and it can get chaotic. I just want to know who's willing to stake claim to that first.
I've definitely seen major pushers have some pretty big fights in there, but Lava Siphon, another area that we've really yet to visit, might be the center of some action early on, as there will be a lot of teams that do want to rotate through there if you're taking a rotation from launch site tree, and sometimes even if you're going long through thermal station, you'll end up passing through things like Lava Siphon or even Big Mod that we haven't seen too much action over by yet. Chiefs, though, we know that what their plan is already, moving inside of the second zone. They see what's there, and man, oh man, is it ever there, as Epicenter should be yet another Chief station, as their shields aren't really up to date, but they'll have plenty of time to farm those up.
Plenty of time and a fantastic spot to do that in, so see if it plays out the same way as last game with a top 3 finish for them. But Big Mod, man. Big Mod endings I am so looking forward to. Those old areas that were over there with the building in the corner and they used to come out, they were always fun. But Big Mod, I feel, can house so many teams. Clean, our top team from last game, by way of frags, already out here getting some early damage in, but it's going to be Dolphin knocked here for Clean, so a trade should be able to get the res. I believe Clean, though, did get the thirst as well, so if Clean should be able to reset here and have a better position.
They're against Uprising right now. We'll see if they end up pulling the trigger on this res, since they do have the caustic to make this push a little bit harder. Seems like that's going to be exactly what's happening as Top Dogs. They're looking to make their own push in as well. Nice shots there. Not a whole lot of cover in the back is going to force out the Wraith Q. Top Dogs relentlessly pushing forward right now. They want to make their way in through Lava City, try and get that rotation up through Geyser into the north, but are going to have to give it up, as it seems like they haven't found too much yet. Instead, I'm going to go for what's inside of this vault.
Well, they're going to steal something by way of the Loba. Oh, or will you? Hold on now.
Rube going to barely get away with his life is what's going to happen.
Holy cow, that scared me a little. I'm like, he is getting, I'm like, oh, what boring item are we going to get here? Oh, we're going to get some shots to the head, apparently.
Can still take something before time is up, but Top Dogs now, they've already moved on. The dome is already gone, and you got to hope that you don't get peeked again. Hey, look at that, more shots coming in. Does end up getting the steal. Does have what looks like the gold helmet was the choice item there. Rube will be able to escape to safety with the rest of his team. They've got this Geyser over here to herald them inside of Lava Siphon. That's likely exactly where they'll end up going, as it'll provide them a little bit more cover and the next ring scan if they don't have it already.
Oh, that was a big nade inside of here. Arcstar inside the bubble will help scatter them. That's going to be the crack, but it's actually going to be Weebs on the receiving end. Hold on a second. What looked like a great start. Weebs just got rolled here by Noblesse. Cray, nice clutch there, because that was the Gibraltar that was cracked inside. That was 60 flesh from a grenade. The fact that they were able to rebound, that was nice.
Plays that really, really well, and it is going to be the sole reason that his team continues, is really just that Peacekeeper shot, and the fact that they ended up getting the early knock in a double bubble fight seemed unlikely. But now, Fight Club pushing themselves into Harvester, the home of Major Pushers. We'll have to see where Major Pushers ended up being as well. They're fortunate that nobody's holding this snake already, as they can sort of lock this one down themselves. They've got the Rampart to lock the doors if need be. But if a Caustic were to be inside the snake, that would be nearly a death sentence for them, as being out in the open or being in the snake, those are the only two choices.
Really want to see how early these teams are. They might be making a play for the world drop that was over there. Didn't see too much action from the world drops last game. We know Spitfires, Kravers, Alternators. A lot of talk about the Kraber in competitive as of late. Looks like they heard footsteps. They're going to try and play some peaks, and they are taking a look up there, but decide to go ahead and rotate a little further over, see what's in that package.
Yeah, likely going to start holding this snake down as well, just so they've got a little bit of safety there. It seems like we've got another fight going on, though, with already a knock going down on the low ground. Astralis are involved, and it seems like they're relatively confident, as that's the last Thirst going down there. Evoke is going to end up going down. It's going to be 3 Jabronis now missing a member, as Uprising missing a member as well, and on my screen, trembling in fear.
I know. I'm like, he's shaking. But Uprising, I don't know how they're going to recover. Meanwhile,
Astralis are really going at this again. I mean, Padmir is ready. Hestia is also ready, and it seems like playing around these doors is the way to go. Uprising in a fight of their own, as Dome has already been dropped, and the fight with Astralis is already over, as Padmir finds 3 quick kills, as it seems, with that Mastiff, and it seems like Hestia and Sabron are left a little bit wanting, as Padmir is the one cleaning up.
Yeah, that was 3 Jabronis, so they had got the 1. I think that was like a 3 versus 2, so they decided to go ahead and clean that up. They know that they're far enough away that even surely they would like that to be clean, but only losing 1 member, that's more than worth it for their position. So some early KP, nice pickup. I'm just looking at the map. There's one team still really far south. I don't know if that's Top Dogs, but there's a team taking their sweet time rotating up.
And we'll take a look next time we end up going over there. Locking the door in their own way, though. Shadows keeps themselves a little bit safe on Uprising, having already lost that early member to Clean. Don't have really anything that they can do about it, and is still hanging out inside of Fragment, shooting lockers in frustration. I'm sure they see somebody outside the door. Krezen definitely on guard right now and can't afford to be chunked before anything comes through.
Yeah, trying to play the great, trying to play pre-fire there to stop anybody. If they can get the jump, the first shot in, that's going to be their only way to defend, and it looks just like that. Double Wingman will get the crack, so that will thwart the advancement at least for another 5-6 seconds. Uprising, backs against the walls. They're going to have to hold with 2, and it is not going to be an easy task.
Seems like Shadow's doing work around the window as Major Pushers, they're trying to hold as well. Also up here in Fragment, right on the northwestern end. Ranches ends up getting the shield swap, popping the Phoenix to see if he can get that shield swap again later, now having it full. Major Pushers engaged with what I believe to be Uprising over here, as that's the Loba Black Market, and they can likely tell at this point that there are only 2 members standing in their way. Cleave waiting to go through right now. Arcstar gonna herald him out, as now a stick comes in at the back end and Ranches. That is a kill secured.
That was nice. I mean, that was they came from different angles, they distracted, they forced them out, and they did what they needed to do, and they're doing a little bit more now as team in market. Wingman shots are abundant right now. Ranches, the one on the Wraith, the one that can get out, is actually going to get aggressive. But this is why you send the Wraith, because if that team up on the zip building says, hold on a second, we're going to get some outside shots, and it's the Wraith that can make it back.
Yep, dead inside, end up losing a member for it as Major Pushers secure that, and as you illustrated, get out to safety. Now, still playing inside of this building, right on the outside of Market, have plenty of teams to hold off as they come in from Fragment East. Major Pushers, one of the better positions inside of the lobby right now. Their biggest threat seems to be the Zip team, and they do have the Valkyrie if they want to try and move out later on. For right now, Ring is safe, but later and later, that's going to be a spot of sore contention for them unless somebody like ATK can take some pot shots up and force Zip building back inside.
Well, ATK has a fantastic spot. We know the zone is pulling further north. It's very rare that you ever see anything within that Frag West courtyard area when the zone is already going this high, and I believe we already saw the scan. So for a team like ATK, that Zip building that's on their left, the teams in Frag West all have to make their way up this hill. And so depending on where and how quickly that zone pulls in from the east, if at all, they have a great spot here with a lot of covers. So they might be able to pick off some here. We already see they've got at least 1 KP, but they have great sight lines from this position.
Yeah. Big worry for me is that Shambi does not have a lot of ammunition. So being able to pick up that KP even later is going to be reliant on just whether he can save that up and hit those shots, as right now he sort of traded it off for a little bit of shield farming. Very close to that purple Evo, as a lot of teams already have it. Cleve still waiting on his, of course, but we will be getting up to the point where everybody's got at least 200 health. And it seems like the Sheriffs, they're the ones locking down that truck you talked about earlier. Very, very difficult to push, and they are in control.
Yeah, it's difficult to push. Make no mistake about it, Dia, but it is crazy when you get into Zone 4 and Zone 5. You'll have teams coming in. You'll have somebody looking for a spot. One team will come in. Another team will say, hey, maybe we come in and clean up. That has potential to be a graveyard every single game. If Sheriffs can hold, they are dominant. If there's some type of crack or knock, look for all craziness to break loose.
I mean, it reminds me a lot of what we saw in Game 1. Remember, over there by the train tracks off by Landslide, there's another very similar truck, and we saw teams pushing that with reckless abandon and honestly costing games for both themselves and for other squads. And Chiefs definitely have to be wary, or rather Sheriffs have to be wary of that. Chiefs, the team that is pushing in right now, have the potential, of course, to jump on them, as they've got Funk. They've got this charge rifle, though, and I'm expecting them to farm up a little bit more. It seems like sniper ammo, though, definitely running low around World's Edge today.
I love Chiefs positioning, by the way. They just have to make sure, and you can see they're pinging the choke on the left of the tunnel where the train is. Once this zone closes, there's a lot of head peaks here. If things go wrong, you can always go a little bit to the east underneath the train tracks. This is a fantastic positioning for Chiefs right now. And as long as nobody pushes them from behind within the next couple of minutes when the zone closes, this is another potentially good game for Chiefs just due to positioning alone.
Yeah, they can start farming up some serious damage as teams start to clash as well, especially moving into the third zone. They're going to have a lot of free space. You talked about the choke that they're watching over there by the train tracks. That could be theirs as a little bit of high ground as well. The world is their oyster right now, and I like that they're a little bit staggered. They got the drone scouting out in front, and then 3 members all the way back. So they've got a lot of area control these lobbies, but that definitely can be super duper important the later and later we get. The amount of space that you have for yourself is even less space that other teams can occupy later on.
Man, to see Clean operating without a third and there's nowhere they can res, the one that was just beside the lava split is already taken, but they've got a knock here. I don't actually know what's in crafting today. I don't know if there's, or this week, if mobile respawns in that or not. If it is, I don't think it is, but they're going to be looking for a mobile respawn to get him back. If there's one available, we'll be seeing it soon.
Yeah, waiting for Dolph right now, but still definitely playing super well. We see Pat showing up in the kill feed again, though. Astralis, this might be their game. They ended up taking one just last week, and right now, Pat is on a rampage through that northern side of the map. Should be up in the east right now. And major pushers that still hold up inside of this building, still trying to stay safe. And on the receiving end of a lot of aggression.
ATK, that team that was on top, this next zone is the one that they will operate the best in. ALK, team in the choke, they have another great position. You can see the zone normally closes right to where those boxes are, so they've got that. And as you had mentioned at the start of the game, reading the zone, this is the one near where the choke of the tunnel is in that building. So we know Sheriffs was in that building, ALK is there, Chiefs to the northwest position, and all the teams that we talked about all have great positioning. Kick, they're on the outside looking in now, so those teams that are in that truck and up to the north, Kick's gonna have to fight or force their way potentially under the building. Underneath that L-shaped building to them is a spot that only one team can hold, but several teams generally contest.
And they do have the Wraith Portal, they have the Gibraltar Dome, so they can force things like that engagement to maybe have a little bit more in their favor. They're going to have to keep their eyes on where this Valk team ends up landing. There isn't a whole lot of real estate. We covered more or less all of it right now, and it seems like they want to try and take the underside of the building, but they're going to be focused by everybody as Dome ends up dropping. And Kick now, they see their opportunity loud and clear, are going to go on the push in. They're ready for some bloodshed.
Oh, that's why they don't go
underneath. That is scary
stuff.
My,
I said if there's a spot where it works, it works. You do have to be careful of nades, but it looks like Kick is now trying to take the roof.
Nice.
That's going to be shot straight down, 75 damage. So Kick, they'll just take the roof. Nobody on roof, and it's Chiefs, the ones that are falling in the kill feed. They're trading right now, and it looks like Kick's going to get out on the action. With all those teams knocked, that is going to do some serious damage. We'll take a closer look at this.
Really good.
I'm just looking at the kill feed for Hyarka to see if he's getting any of those confirmed. Nothing yet.
Unlucky for him, still a heck of a lot of damage down there. They want to push this so bad. They want to clean up these kills, but it seems like they don't have to, as a little bit of a dance ends up being the end of Chiefs. Right at the end there. Kick still holding on to this rooftop, though completely uncontested right now, as they just got to keep an eye on the teams that are coming in on their back or from the sky, as a Valkyrie squad is landing right on top of them, but gets shot down in a way that will keep them from doing that one more time. Now the L-Star to try and contest some of this high ground, though. Kick still very much in it, still watching their back, have controlled this beautifully and almost managed to find the kill there.
They might get it.
Rockets might finish this off.
Oh,
that is very low HP.
Shot.
Defensive bombardment, I think, is coming down there from another team. Good Dome ends up keeping him safe. Kick also having cover from above. Do have to watch the Sheriffs across the way, likely still in that truck. It seems like Oracle now are the ones losing members.
Oh my goodness, careful where you step out at. Just managed to get inside. It's Kick with the high ground, but it is going to be the truck and that rock across the way that is going to be the final zone. So for Sheriffs in that truck, now if you thought this was a hot position, it's about to get real steamy. You've got other teams that are now flying in from the Valkyrie. 10 squads left. You can see the kill feed about to be real active. All the teams that flew in, Dia, really suffered and caused so much chaos. Chiefs, who had a great position, ended up dealing with a lot. ALK, though, the team that had nobody at their back in the tunnel, they've now made their way down into the choke. The teams with the good positioning all there, except for Chiefs, who ended up getting flown on, and tough out for them.
Another defensive bombardment ends up coming down, and we'll see who this ends up knocking out, as there should still be Fight Club in the bottom there. They had the Rampart. It seems like Major Pushers are suffering losses, though, as defensive bombardment is doing a lot of damage to Kick at this point. They still have managed to control this zone, though, in a way that they have nobody to fire on them from the back of the building. They heal up completely.
They're flying on top.
And now they can Valk out to safety. Are they going on top of that big rock?
Yeah, they had just pinged it, and I think they were trying to scout to see if anybody was on it. If they take that high ground, nobody's there. It is fantastic. Astralis, a team underneath, everybody's gonna have to cross out in the open across the tracks. Only one team can play below. 8 teams left, but it's about to get real heated. Kick ended up taking on top. They are on this rock. This is the dominant position that teams want to have. They are going to be exposed. Did they fly too early? We're about to find out.
They gotta look out for Astralis, though, on their backs. The Kraber is there, and it seems like the Arc Star is enough as well, with a wingman, leaving the Arca, the last one left alive, trying to take the 1v1. He will be unlucky in it, and end up going down as Clean. They end up taking the kills, and Top Dogs are trying to push up as well. The Eva is out, the Dome is down, and now they've got the chance to reload, reheal, get ready for the fight that is going to be all or nothing. As it seems like Astralis, losing members in the kill feed as well, are struggling themselves.
There's nowhere to go. I'd be very surprised if this makes it to the final seconds with more than 2 teams. This is when everybody starts to ape on those buildings. It's going to be on the north side of this platform, so you do have Clean somehow with a duo that's managing to survive long enough, trying to get an angle. Don't want to peek too hard with only a duo, but they're trying to get some different angles, climb on some rocks, and just try and get advantage. There's death boxes galore on that, and here's the teams on the north side. They're fighting furiously with Top Dogs.
They know what they want for now, as Top Dogs were forced to take that rotation around by Clean early. I don't think that they know it's a 2-man. I don't think anybody knows which team is the 2-man at this point. 0-0. Gonna have to re-shield that up, and the fact that his team is dropping them for him means they're running low on resources as well. They gotta find kills, and fast as they're engaged, and they end up losing 1 member, maybe even 2, as 0-0 ends up jumping outside of the ring and falling, leaving just Mimu alive with the shotgun in here. He will be taken down, and the defensive bombardment continues to do work. Now down to 4 teams. As you can see, Clean still controlling that high ground. They might have the way to do it. Rez is going to come in for ALGS. They end up getting 3 people strong. Watch that frag, though, as it might be decisive. Going to explode, leaving them still alive.
Well, they have to
see
heal
if these
fast.
heals can come in. Yeah, this ring is closing real quick, and Clean is for sure looking at this corner. Dome ends up coming down, but they've already lost Cheddar again.
This is bold. This is very bold. I mean, that's ticking real hard. I'm surprised they survived. Whether that's going to be enough to keep them alive, it's not down to the zone again, or that has to be the zone. So now it's ALK having to fight in as a duo. The team up on top, they are the team shooting down, but it's the defensive bombardment that's really causing the chaos right now.
Toya is still up for right now. ALGS on the same page as Clean, who are absolutely decimating from above. Not even the Valk rockets can reach them up here, and a wingman might just do the job. They've got the gas as well, but they throw it right down into the dome, and as the ring starts to close, they've got to move down. Knots ends up landing still on high ground for right now. 4 squads still remain. You gotta wait for these other teams to fight it out, for these last rats to start clashing, and the wingman shots come out, but still Clean is the focus of the lobby. The gas is not landing on the ground just yet. yet, as finally they start throwing it in. The KP bubble is down. That might be the safety, but Valk will buy you time with the passive. Unlucky lands in the ring though, and he's almost gonna go down to it. Still has shields, but he steps out one last time, and Sheriffs take the second game in a row.
Positioning. That car is the dominant position. Whether the zone pulls there on the platform, whether it pulls across the tracks over by the L-shaped building, that building is the one that, or the truck is the one where I've seen so many performances of teams that win and put themselves in position. I've also seen that become the graveyard, but they held. All the teams around them kept fighting. They were able to pick off. They might have got a lot of KP. They might have got minimal KP. Time will tell. We didn't get to see them too much because the action was elsewhere, but major shout outs to Clean for making it that far. We saw eating the zone damage just to try and get the knocks and get that KP. I think that slide was a little unfortunate, so they had to improvise very quickly. But make no mistake about it, with 2 wins in a row now, Clean also there with a lot of KP. Sheriff's there, looks very reminiscent of game number 2, but the results are there. Sheriff's number 1.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if that's enough to push them into the top spot, as it very well might be. 12 points for a win is nothing short of massive for them, as that should bridge the gap. It depends on how many points Kick ended up picking up the meantime, but it might be Sheriffs the ones that are closer to qualifying now for that last spot in Pro League. We're going to take a break. We're going to do some quick math, and we'll be right back with your 4th game of the day. Welcome back, folks, to EMEA's preseason qualifiers. We've already crested the halfway point, Jay Howe, and I gotta wonder who is in the lead at this point, because Sheriff's winning 2 times. That's pretty massive.
I mean, despite 2 first place finishes, this is what I was talking about going into game number 3, is that positioning is great, winning a game is great, but you have to get some KP if you truly want to be the winner. This is now 2 games in a row where they've gotten first place finishes, but not even first place in the lobby. And it's 2 games in a row where Clean has finished above them in terms of points. This time, ALK was able to get in there as well. They had a great position in that tunnel in the choke, picked up a lot of KP. So despite winning games, it seems like you're playing more for the long game and less for the short term. Now, don't get me wrong, you're still putting yourselves in a position to win today, but you gotta do more with it.
Yeah, right now their lead is there, but it is so ridiculously small. I mean, look at those top 3. They're basically all tied. And with Kick and Clean only 1 point behind, you've got to imagine that, I mean, if Clean are operating with a 3rd member, if Kick can get their ball rolling again, they are going to be so ridiculously happy. And Astralis hovering right behind them as well does not make me feel safe as anybody in those top 3 either, because Astralis have also been extremely consistent with making it into that mid game with plenty of KP.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be overly critical. I mean, it is very hard to win a game in Apex Legends, period.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone in an ALGS format and things like that amongst these teams. It's just that when you get to this point, you cannot rely on winning games. Like, they're getting by on first place finish placement points. If they got 2nd or 3rd, they'd be several points behind. And so I like that they're winning. Don't get me wrong. But when you have Kick and Clean right there that are also fragging, they catch one game where they get hot and they get there, then all of a sudden their points go astronomically high, like Kick number 1. Clean, they've yet to really win games, but they've been fragging a lot. And game number 1, I think they had 0 points. So there's a lot of different ways to play. And I mean, right now it's a 3 to 4 team race, but any team on that 4th through 10th spot can just win and then just be first place going into game number 5.
Yeah, with 3 games left to go, really anything can happen.
We've seen that.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, just remembering last week, 69 IQs raced to the top, but we've got a lot of variability still to cover, and a lot of zones that we haven't seen just yet. We saw the one in the west, we've seen 2 solid ones in the north, but we've yet to see something that draws us towards maybe Lava Siphon, or variability still to cover, and a lot of zones that we haven't seen just yet. We saw the one in the west, we've seen 2 solid ones in the north, but we've yet to see something that draws us towards maybe Lava Siphon, or even Lava City. Something more southerly, Thermal Station can fall in there as well, and I want to see how teams end up playing around an ever-shifting map, because that's the thing that really makes Apex, that makes it really enjoyable to watch, is making those split-second decisions that Clean were doing so ridiculously well. Now, giving some other teams a chance to play perhaps zone if they're more comfortable, be able to play that edge if they're a team in the north, might start changing up the standings even more, and that's something that we constantly have to be on the lookout for as we move into the second half.
I mean, a lot of teams are like, well, there's a lot in Thermal. Haven't seen one in Thermal yet. Big mod. I want to see a big mod in it. Why is that too much to ask for, Dia? I mean, give me big mod. I want to see how many teams can actually fit underneath, on the first floor, on the second floor. I want to see how many teams can fit in big mod. That is a massive POI that looks small from the outside, but when you zone in on that, you see just how much cover there is on how many different layers. That looks fun. All right, selfishly, I want to see it, but I'm sure some of the southern teams wouldn't mind if they pull down to the southern hemisphere their way.
Yeah, but a lot of teams can coexist inside of those buildings. And interestingly enough, I mean, whether it's big mod or no, we haven't seen a lot of building endings where we get these sort of birthday cake formations. We've had a lot of trucks be the thing that changes the game at the very end, which is of course going to be expected. I know that you've talked about how trucks tend to be really powerful because there are a lot of them in ending zones, but as we get further and further on, if you're dropping out of Lava City, Skyhook, Fragment, any of that, you can get a lot of stacking of teams, and that really excites me when you have so much real estate so closely compacted to manage, and when that all starts to break apart is something that hasn't been quite tested in this final lobby yet.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I love the endings in Skyhook and Lava Siphon to where so many teams can exist. And then those final zones, all of a sudden there's 7, 8, 9 teams, and you're like, oh, well, this is crazy. And then there's 30 seconds left and there's 4 teams fighting, 5 teams fighting. It gets really fun.
We're gonna get to see if the zone ends up pulling to any of those more densely populated areas. As for now, I'm just gonna be crossing my fingers, happy to see the Rampart once again, but really, realistically at this point, I don't think that you're changing things up right now. We've got a few squads I know in NA that like to change things up very reactively based on how the games go, but specifically today, we haven't seen that much shifting. For the most part, you know what you like and you're sticking with it. That includes Loba, that includes Crypto, and in this case, Rampart as well. You're not departing to try and adapt to the way the lobbies are being played out.
You know, and with this shift in meta, there's one, I mean, I think even during week 1, we still saw some Octane play. There has been 0. As an Octane main, I can tell you the stem nerf hurts and it allows, you know, you to be more aggressive scouting. But the jump pad nerf and the distance you can close, I think is very noticeable when you combine those for teams to where they're just completely gone, which is why we see more Wraith. But those close range movements that we used to see, and we've had throughout the entirety of competitive history of Apex with Wraith and Octane, they are almost completely gone. I mean, there are only a handful of teams that can make those plays to get from to and from one place. Now they are big jumps via Valkyries, and it is such a huge difference from what we're used to.
It really is, and a lot of teams have, interestingly enough, tried to play Valkyrie in a similar way, and it has been to middling success so far. We've yet to see them really be able to pull out the more aggressive pushes that you were able to do with Octane. It's much more about securing that positioning, and I like it. I like it a lot, J-How, because the emphasis on being able to get to a spot early, to be able to hold it out, really feels like it's rewarding the core of Apex, the sort of gunplay and management of your team, of your separation, and in a way that the Octane meta was rewarding sort of the unexpected instead.
Yeah, I think we found a pretty healthy balance, and I like that there's constant meta shifts. When we went back to the defensive days of Watson, that was a little too defensive. I think most people would agree. But this is something I'm looking forward to talking about in NA, because you talked about the aggression. EU not noticeably as aggressive as, say, our NA teams. But I think when you see the shifts in the aggression of teams without those, the teams that were generally more aggressive are some of the teams that we don't see today. And I think that is very telling on how much that meta has shifted, that it's actually kept some of the teams out of week number 2, both in EU and NA.
That's something that's really impressive to me about teams like Top Dogs and Kick that are traditionally quite aggressive. Top Dogs have definitely, in the finals at least, not quite found their footing just yet, but we saw Kick do it for one game, and I hold out hope for both of them that we continue to see this sort of aggressive playstyle work in a new meta, or as it constantly adapts, see these players improve and make themselves and their team fit into a little bit of a different playstyle and constantly be tested in that way. For right now, though, we haven't quite addressed the zone yet, J-How, and it seems like we are getting a new place. We are moving over into Overlook. Gonna give a lot of teams, specifically ATK, a little bit of an easier time moving in.
Overlook, potentially no name. That truck there, Chiefs find themselves right in the middle. We've seen fantastic positioning. Team trying to fly in, actually getting stuck there. Gonna break a few doors down, but Chiefs, similar to their previous games, doesn't matter what they have, as long as they have good positioning, they'll be there later. And it's always a great to see when teams find those easy rotations.
And they've got that Wraith out to the side as well. I know that you talked about this just last game, but having her out there to scout is going to be really useful for Chiefs. It allows them to hold a little bit more space in a more tangible way, since they've got representation across the map. Now Funk with the EMP up as well can start to farm damage maybe and get some of those shields in a little bit better of a position, because that's the one thing that does really concern me about Chiefs. I love their position. I like their guns. Their shields are going to make it tough to move.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look when the zone closes and these teams start to play this, you can't hold here forever if you're Tycoon, but you can right now. But when teams start doing armor checks and you are sitting on potentially 1 or 2 whites and you get a crack or potentially a knock from one of those teams, they will push you because they know it's much easier to finish you off in that situation. Here's one way to get your shields up. Here's some free damage.
It's exactly what I wanted to see, and Funk ends up getting that Evo. Nicely done from him. We've got another shield very close to evolving with just one more hit from the wingman as well, and they'll get themselves to blue soon, be able to survive those shield checks, reward them off a little bit more. Uprising, though, going on a little bit of a risky rotation. This is the tunnels tend to be a death trap in my experience, Jayhow. And I say that not just at the solo queue level, but at the professional level as well. We see a lot of teams get caught up in here and fall. And the fact that Uprising is controlling this choke means that they're at the very least aware of it. Let's see if they can come out on top.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because different teams can exist. One in the main tunnel that used to exist, one up top, one below. And then when one team pushes the other, you can confidently third party because you know there's nobody else around. And if there is somebody, you'll know very quickly. So it's very easy to third party that situation. And that's where it can quickly become that death trap that you find in those situations. Have to be careful on how aggressive you choose to be there or how aggressive you choose to defend even, because if somebody pushes you and you're not as familiar with who's down below, you might try and push off of your defense and then you find a third party unknowingly, and you find that happens probably more often than not.
It is a risky spot, and it's where IGLs really come in handy, where you can say, hey, IGL, why didn't you call that? And it really does come down to them at the end. It's something that I'm going to continue emphasizing throughout the day is when these calls are being made, who is making them, and how well informed they are as to what else has gone down in that kill feed. For right now, Clean having IGL themselves, or maybe egoed themselves into a spot in Overlook. Remember, ATK was here earlier, must have taken a building instead, and Clean, they've opted for these big containers over here that will give them a really nice spot on the high ground that it does seem like one of them at the very least is missing. I'm looking at you, Dolph.
Well, once you're down, you're down.
It's true.
Meanwhile, way off in the distance, over here in Big Mod, there, well, that looks like a Valk ult out. When in doubt, Valk ult out.
That's what Kick did earlier, and we'll see if it ends up working nearly as well. It seems like taking a little bit of damage, but no downs just yet. Should mean that everybody gets in safely. Down towards Geyser, where Kick, again, were earlier. Might be a little bit of trouble if anybody else is taking this rotation in, but we've had a big focus right now in this game on teams rotating in from the south. We haven't had a look at anybody from the north. Teams that came from Climatizer, from Survey, from Epicenter, and even from places like Fragment West are mysteries to us, and it's just now that we're seeing major pushers who have finally come up from Harvester finally land in their spot at Overlook.
You know, I'm going to point this out now. I mean, they have a fantastic spot to defend, but they're running R9 shoddy and Volt shoddy. They are not long distance, and the Wingman is their third. So they are going to... Yeah, they are in a very small bubble that they can fight in. They will not be ramping up those shields the same way we see other teams do it. They don't have the long-range poke. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because they can defend well in tight quarters, but they just can't do much outside of that until things close in. And if it closes in too fast, they might just succumb to the pressure. They do have a way out, the little zip line hole here. They can jump down if need be. But this is a weird loadout for me, for this team to have no poke at all, long range, confidently.
And I think it says that they didn't really want this spot either. I mean, they're not inside a building where they would be a lot more confident with the short range. And while they must know that academically this is a place that you can hold, I think major pushers are looking for the next closest building. See if they can use perhaps that Wraith to get themselves in before things start to close in around them a little bit more. We check in with Noblesse, though, who are over at this building that Kick owned earlier. Right now, pushing up to that roof, although missing all of their shields. is Kuvo. Finally ends up finding that knock, and it seems like Noblesse are taking control of the building, scouting out for anybody that could still be hiding in here. Arcstar will fish them out. The shield bat's gonna get popped, and Noblesse should be able to hold this one. One last member remaining. They go through the zone to do it, and the shotguns are all out at the same time to finish off Buck.
This is crazy. First team finally did. You know, we saw a much more active last game, slower pace this game. Fighting around the edge of the zone is normally when you see those kills do happen. I did see somebody earlier. Chiefs actually got a kill on one member, and it showed they used a finisher, so they got the thirst, which means somebody got revived over in No Name based on the numbers we have available. So Chiefs did get some kills earlier. I couldn't quite see or remember who it was, so I am curious how they got that res off amidst all of that, because there's only one real res spot right there in the middle of No Name, and it's right in the middle where everybody can see. I'm surprised.
And that is a hard place to work through. This is an interesting spot as well. It seems like we have lost one from Fight Club, as they have taken a very odd and very long rotation through Zone 2 and may just be going down to it, as they're caught on the outside as well. And Kick are the ones gatekeeping them from over here in Big Mod.
They have held this spot for quite some time. I am surprised that they're still here, but now looking at the results, not as surprised. Also, it was Odin, the team the Chiefs had dealt with earlier. It looks like they're dealing with them again.
Finally taking them down, it seems, as zone closing means that Origin needs to get inside of the next ring, and will do so, leaving Fight Club, unfortunately, all the way on the outside. There's a very big chance that they end up going down to third rings. You can really only make it 100 meters inside with no heat shields. Astralis holding down the building, though, something that major pushers definitely envy them for. We talked about this a little bit earlier. They have what is still a really nice spot inside of the next zone as well. Maybe able to hold on to this one for a little bit longer, as they quite literally scramble for positioning in here. Seeing a lot of that today. A lot of Gibbies climbing.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes you have got some free time on your hand and you just see what you can break.
Hey, I mean, if they can find a safe spot, that God spot inside of the building, it is theirs. Right now, nobody's really contesting it. Astralis also not really watching their back, leaving Pat to sort of check their angles as they take poke wars everywhere else. 3 jabronis taking wars right now. Seems like they're going to lose, though, as they all get wiped out by a decisive push from Kick, leaving Kick with a little bit more KP. And hey, I've said it before, no. I'm going to say it again. They're fragging out. We'll see if they can finally win this one, as Origin ends up going down, but the portal out might take them into safety outside of Geyser. Hyarka is going low as well. They might have a little bit of safety here if there's a third party coming in. They spot this one out. The Valkyrie on the top gets chunked beautiful. In a huge way, and now the res should be able to come in for Kick. They've got another squad right off to the side of them, though, and they were sandwiched between two. Now are going to be on the receiving end of that defensive bombardment, and the portal is going to force them all the way back inside, and they end up
didn't get the res.
Losing Origin as well.
Oh, they're actually being pinched here.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were going to get that off. I am surprised they weren't able to. Uako had managed to do enough damage. I mean, it was very underrated how much that damage matters to stop somebody, but oh, that is a brutal loss.
See if they can pull it
all
clean here.
Plan the team that's pinching, yeah.
They've still got the one res beacon out there, but it would be a miracle to be able to pick him up at this point. I really... Excuse me. I have to sneeze there. There's no way of playing around that one.
It happens, man. But we have 18 teams left. Round 3, just about to close. You mentioned sometimes the tunnel can become a graveyard. There's still enough space down towards Geyser where you don't have to go in. But realistically, after Zone 4, you have to go in. So you have to start formulating a plan now. You have to start considering pushing early before things tighten too much and you start to open up the window for other people. At the same time, if they do wait for the next zone, they know nobody else can come in from Geyser. Kicks it in a respawn. They're getting a respawn right now.
This is absolutely huge as well because they found a knock in the meantime, and somehow Kick might just go from 0 to hero as they open the doors to the fight, find yet another knock, and it looks like Huaco is just 1v3ing right now, ends up finding all 3 members of the squad, but still has to contend with another one gatekeeping them. Origin's moving back over to the box, and it's Astralis inside of this tunnel that want to keep Kick from moving in. Kick can play this slow. They will have Valk ult in a little while. They've got to wait for that one to go through, and right now that might just be the play as they just got looted up, and Astralis is not a team that you want to mess with.
Well, Astralis is going to poke out. I just want to say Uaku's tracking is god tier.
Insane.
I mean, from his 301 before to there was a sick wall bounce jump over, and his tracking is impeccable. That was beautiful to watch. My mind is blown. There's a lot of good players and a lot of people can do this, but what he just did was so impressive. We'll break more onto that, but you mentioned they will have an ult. They're at 40%. They're going to look for ult excels. They might have enough time between zone, but more teams are starting to collapse in. The kill feed's starting to ramp up, and all the teams now see it will pull. It's almost never, I don't know if there's ever a tunnel ending. So they'll either have to fly over, which you can see is most likely, but where do they land, Dia? Where do they land? All of No Name's going to be taken in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I think they got to go high ground here on the buildings, or rather the little containers that we saw Clean on earlier. I feel like just from our perspective, having this sort of view of where everybody is, that's got to be the place. Is taking a look over here, it seems like No Fear, they've taken Major Pusher's spot from earlier and taken out Oracle in the process. They've got the low ground for right now, but it is right on the edge as, oh, even there, seeing this zone now, those containers are out, and I could not tell you where Kick will go. As right now, they're entering the tunnel, trying to find the kills.
Astralis was the one that used the Valk ult out. There's a rat in the tunnel there, by the way, and we'll see if that gets picked off. But that opened the door for Kick to rotate in. That is, what a recovery here by our team that's sitting in second place, 1 point behind first. So great for them. Meanwhile, Chiefs, a common name, a consistent name we've seen in the kill feed. They have been dominating No Name, but there is very few spots for cover. There's the rock point further to the north of the current zone. There's the boxes you mentioned to the eastern part. 12 teams left is about to go down very fast. What a massive shot. Dolphin comes in, and they now have a dominant spot with nothing at their back. A team that has held position from Overlook from the beginning. Now potentially Kick and Clean, two of our front runners, having great games so far.
And two teams that can and will frag out as well. Noblesse has been taking some names with them today, but it seems like they might just lose this fight as Cray, the last one left alive, might actually find this. As if he gets the Arc Star stick, it goes wide, but he's got the Eva out. Gotta take the time to reload at some point, but it is so ridiculously risky right now. As two members run in on him, he is gonna have no choice but to fall, and Red Dragon end up getting the loot to take their time, and now move into this next circle as round 4 is closing. We'll see where everybody lands up. 10 squads still alive is massive as we get into this.
It won't be 10 for very long. That's going to be the zone that's going to get the knock there. Unfortunate timing. So Red Dragon, a team that's struggled to get themselves on the board, they are going to be out, down to 9 teams. This is going to collapse very fast. Uprising has a nice corner. Look at that kill feed. This is insane. All the teams rotating in a huge stick now by Uprising from 10 down to 6, and this number is drastically falling. Kick in the kill feed as well. All the teams fighting their way in, and furiously so.
Kick just keep going, but they don't have the dome. Now they don't have a way to get out to safety. Waco's gonna have to med right here, and the Arc Star coming in behind him might spell the end as he ends up getting knocked, and now it's up to Origin on this Valkyrie. Phoenix kidding at the moment, looking for a way to get his teammates up, hoping that somebody else distracts from the fact that they are sitting ducks right now.
The shield is enough for OJ to get up, but is this a 1v1 playing behind the knock shields? There's gonna be a huge clutch. That's one. Gotta deal with this. Almost number 2. Oh my God!
He almost gets it. Holy moly! Kick go out, but man, do they go out in style. And
I think he got that maybe from somebody else. I want to get a check on that. That was insane. One of the most insane 1v3s you will ever see.
It's absolutely wild, but the game is only going to get better from here. We've still got Clean in the lobby. They are up on the top in the best spot here, still inside the final circle. And ATK, though they landed Overlook, they are not so lucky. Missing a member right now. We are waiting on that push from them and Uprising into the circle.
I can't wait to go back and watch that, but we will focus here. 4 teams left, only 1 duo squad. ATK is that. They seem to be on the receiving end of a lot of damage, having to fight their way up without much cover. They need to move up to this head peak, and then they're going to have to leapfrog to another 27 seconds away. Clean, though, our second place team, dominant position, and they have the spot that all the other teams want right now.
ATK end up finding Fear. Ooh, the hit on the landing, though, is going to take them out, as now it's going to be Clean waiting on this bubble to expire. Just 3 squads left, and they end up finding the knock on No Fear once again, following that right up with another as well. They move in on this portal from the side, and Unlucky, he's got these kills in his sights. The Missile Barrage going to find a little bit more damage as well, and it's all about the thirst right now as 3 squads remain, all of them full squads as well, and they finally identified their next threat up here on the top by the exits to the tunnel.
This is Clean's game. I feel in their favor, but that just got changed very quickly. They might be able to get the res off. They have 1 person that cracked on the other side, but they ended up getting thirsted. Unlucky for real. There was a Kraber actually in there that caused some serious problems, and now Clean, who seemingly was on their way to victory, might now be playing for a different place.
We've seen some crazy things from Clean. Let's see if they can do that again, as they've got the shield bats to work with now. Still have 2 different teams to fend off, but they gotta look out for that Kraber. Uprising's attention is split, and we gotta know, as round 6, the final round is gonna start moving here. Who's gonna come out on top? Clean still have control. They do not have to move that far.
Uprising, the trio with the position, when they move forward, they don't have the cover. EMP will deal with one of the teams. That was a stick!
What a stick!
Oh my god! He didn't get the Wraith Q off! That was nasty here!
What are you doing, Uprising? It is illegal in this lobby, and he almost finds another one as well, as now pushing in towards Clean. They're going to take them out with the Evas. The gas is doing a lot. Isn't going to be enough, actually, as it looks like one's going to end up falling. Now turning onto Dolph with this Gibraltar. Uprising do not lose a member, and they turn right back onto the team that they stuck earlier. Now looking to finally take this win as the shots are connecting, and it's just 1 member left. No Fear. They've made it all the way to second. Can Shex clutch this out in the 1v3? He cannot. Uprising find a huge stick, find a great push, and find themselves the win in game 4.
Look, I mean, this is one of those rare times where Zone 5 was more exciting than Zone 6, but Uprising decided, hold on, let's neutralize that with a gigantic arc star. That the timing and precision of that, whether intentional or not, you can decide, but the fact that they got that, the Wraith, I believe it was on a Wraith because they tried to queue, was not quick enough, and that was painful.
The odds are like
if you're on Uprising side, you're like, that's huge. I still want to go back and watch that 1v3 because I'm pretty sure Kick got that 1v3 and somebody else came in to clean up. That is one of the most impressive plays I have ever seen. I mean, there's some really good plays out there, but that right there, I cannot wait to go back and watch that. What a game number 4.
I mean, Kick, they play for the micro, and I tell you what, Jay, you're not going to have to wait, because we're going to take a break right now, and you and I, we're going to go watch that clip. Oh Lord, Jay, how have you recovered in that time, by the way? Do you have an update for us, having watched the clip again, as to
I'm
how
pretty
excited
sure.
we should be?
I'm pretty sure that was a 1v3. I mean, we're 5 minutes delayed, so like I get to know, and then I get to wait and see chat's reaction, and I'm trying to recover. You know, we got a short time frame, and I'm trying to like watch, and then I see chat's reaction. I'm like, yeah, that was legit. That was unreal. I got goosebumps watching it a second time. I already knew what happened. 5 minutes later, I got goosebumps again. That thing was crazy.
I think that was by far one of the best games we have streamed of all time. And hey, it is only game 4 of the second week. In this game, of course, Kick ended up coming out on top. No surprise there. They were rolling teams again and again. And whether it was Uwako Hyarka or Uchako Hyarka or Origin, they were really crushing it. As I'm gonna be working on changing my pronunciation there. Thank you for correcting us, chat.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, an assist from chat goes a long way, but the assists were aplenty from Kick. I mean, 15 kills. I mean, they didn't get the placement that they wanted, but still, it's now starting to distance themselves. The top of our leaderboard, you've got Clean. Clean has looked phenomenal today. They haven't won a game yet, but they are phenomenal in terms of racking up the kills, and they've been in the top 3 a lot lately. And look at this. Kick and Clean have now created some distance between third place.
Now is the time where we can say not that much is going to change about these boards when it comes to the top spots. If you're at the bottom, it is still about collecting points. But for the win today, I gotta say that realistically, we're looking at 7th up. And honestly, if you're me, you're looking at 3rd up, because Kick, Clean, and Sheriffs haven't just had high highs. They have had some of the most consistent performances I've seen from teams to date.
Yeah, you know, we would probably... if it wasn't for week number 1 and 69 IQ and the miracle run that they had, I'd say that it's probably impossible based on, you know, what we've seen historically for quite some time. So 8th, 7th and up, I agree with you. Just a 69 IQ makes me wonder. I can never count out anybody, but 2 teams are leading the race here.
It's absolutely massive. The way that they've been able to control the flow of games so far. I think that Kick and Clean are sort of vibing the same way as well. I mean, Clean, I think maybe with a little bit more of an emphasis on where they end up fighting, and Kick with an emphasis on how they end up fighting, but those guys have been really, really dominant so far. And honestly, Uprising, I can't ignore them either, because the way that they played that last circle was not inexperienced in any way. It wasn't green. It wasn't lucky. They played that really, really well at the end to control the flow of battle in what was otherwise a very chaotic and risky situation for them, because they had a lot of ground, open ground to cover.
The Kraber is such a game changer. I know that's a hot topic for competitive. And you got to think that Clean is probably wishing the Kraber wasn't in the game. Uprising is very happy that the Kraber is in the game. And you kind of wonder what that would be like if there was no Kraber. Unlucky was very aggressive. They got the knocks. They were trying to get the thirst. Unlucky had positioning that is very common, but the Kraber can really be the difference maker. And I think Clean really thinks that they should have won that game, and I think a lot of people think that they should have won that game, but it was Uprising who you point out. Very, very true. They played that well. They had great positioning. They knew where they wanted to be. They knew the angles that they could take, and they were the experienced team there that ended up coming out on top. And it's great to see.
And the telling thing about that is going to be whether they can continue to replicate that, because we know that Clean is a top level team because they can replicate their success from game to game. Same thing with Kick, of course, having maybe slightly lower lows at times, but definitely super high highs. Will bring them up to that very same level. And really right now it does feel like it's a race between these two, but we do have a sneaky third in there that I want to know whether they've got it in them, because it hasn't been nearly as big of a jump for Sheriffs, for example, who have been winning a lot of games in terms of where their high highs are and where their low lows are. They've got very consistent performances, but there is still an outside chance that they take this one away.
Yeah, we've seen that they play positioning really well, and that zone that we just had didn't have a lot of cover, so there wasn't a whole lot of places where you could kind of use that experience for reading zones in your favor. There's just not enough spots that you can make your way into to declare that it's yours and get that top finish. I think they ended up 9th in last game in terms of points accumulated, so they definitely went out early, and I think they only had 1 KP. But even one of the games that they won, they only had, I believe, 5 KP. So they have to find different ways to generate points in situations where they're not going to get positioning. That's just one game, and we know that one game doesn't mean everything here, but as we know from their 2 wins, it's not a lot of kills. So we do need to see more from them if they do want to take it today. And if they don't win it today, Dio, they still have a lot of points to carry over for the next few weeks.
Absolutely. And the same thing can be said for Astralis as well, who are hovering 10 points behind them. Astralis has been a really big team today. And while that jump that they took all the way out and over into the bloodbath that ended up being 5th ring didn't go in their favor, they have managed to control a lot of the games in the same way. And if they can continue to do that, I'm sure that they're going to put themselves in a favorable position if they aren't already, because remember, they're one of our very few returning teams as well. Whether or not Astralis ends up taking the win today, they've put themselves halfway through preseason qualifiers in a place to be in the top 16 teams by the end.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. And you consider that with 4 weeks, if you make it into 2, we've already found that's very hard to do just through the first 2 weeks. So putting up points in both weeks, I mean, that's pretty promising. I mean, I don't want to say you could go out 1 week and then still qualify by playing 3 of the 4 finals. I never want to make that statement, but there are 16 spots. So if you don't get in 1 week, it's not the worst thing in the world. But showing up the first 2 weeks definitely gives you a major head start towards getting one of those spots if you don't win.
Yeah, and I think that the thing that we've seen just based on the way that it's played out going into today is that it's very likely that a lot of teams won't make it back. So every time that you do make it into finals, you have to count it as a win. And that's what I think a lot of the teams here have to do. They've got to play their own game, play it with the experience of being in the finals, but for squads that may be hovering from 15th place down that haven't quite gotten enough momentum here, I think that finals is still a really excellent experience for them because they've got 2 more weeks, assuming they can make it again, to take that experience, turn it into slow, measured gameplay that matches up with what the rest of the lobby is putting out right now.
Yeah, I mean, a team that it's very... Look, Clean is a team that has the name recognition that everybody knows and everybody thinks that they're going to do well, and I think everybody expects them to get here. But I think people expect more out of them because of that name recognition. They didn't deliver in week number 1, but they got their feet wet a little bit, and now week number 2, they're one of the front runners. And that goes to show like what getting in from 1 week to another looks like, is that you can use that and leverage it to your success and then start to live up to some of those expectations. Some of the other teams, they haven't created those expectations yet. So for a team like Clean, last week, it felt, or the week number 1, I should say, they struggled to stay alive. They were aggressive. They got into a lot of fights, but they got thirded a lot. And there was some really crazy like zone 3, zone 4s. They would go out early. Now they've shored that up. They've gotten their positions that they normally would take, and they're dominating with them. I mean, this is a very... You don't want to say it's a huge step. It's just the right step for a team like Clean to come out and have the week that we expected them to have in week number 1.
And they're one of the only teams as well in this lobby that has been able to play a convincing high placement game with 2 people. And they've done it, I'm going to say twice now, because in one game, well, they did lose one early and they ended up performing quite well. In the second game, being in an end game scenario and still being able to hold out quite well and keep 2 other full teams of 3 at bay is no small feat. And that's something that I don't think that we can undervalue as we get later and later into the day, where it is honestly quite likely that you get somebody taken out early by a 50-50, and whether or not you're able to recover them is not a guarantee. Kick got really, really lucky that game, being able to pick up their 3rd, and thank God they did, because it very well may have gotten them an extra 3 kills, as you would love to point out. And whether or not you get that is something that isn't always certain.
Yeah, it might not seem like it, but Uchaku was the MVP last game by far. I mean, when you look at that fight in Geyser that they had, and then they had to recover, he got the portal out, and they could have easily been thirded, and that team could have collapsed on them. But he had a great tracking on 1, cracked a Valkyrie, stopped that push. They ended up losing a member, and they ended up trying to get that survival. Then we saw a Knot going into the tunnel. Then we saw just unbelievable tracking on a Shoddy after that with the Eva shots, and took that and turned that fight, allowed their teammate to come back. And then the play over there in the middle of No Name, absolutely unreal play. despite them not getting first, they were backs against the wall. One of the greatest performances you'll see from an individual in a game.
And now we very well might have the chance to see that again, as we will be getting into game 4 very, very soon. And at that point, we're going to get to see where the zone ends up pulling again. Because once we did get this overlook ending that is quite different from anything that we've gotten, we're still waiting for things in the south. I personally am used to the RNG favoring Lava Siphon a whole lot more, and the fact that we haven't gotten any of those zones yet, even down in Tree, has been surprising to me. That's the thing that I'm hoping will give some other teams a chance as well, because we've had some teams landing at Tree and Lava Siphon as well that haven't really quite been able to take that and translate it into a win just yet.
You know, talk to me, because I know you're a big fan. Or at least
they land Lava City, yeah.
Yeah, not necessarily north. So given the circumstance, you said they play off momentum. Would a southern zone maybe have like an adverse effect? I don't think that it would. They're a pretty good team, but they've been thriving in these zones that are further away because they're able to pick people off on the outside to get that momentum.
I mean, I think that it sounds kind of bad because like I am very much a Kick fan. I like them quite a bit, but I do think that pulling south would hurt them just a little bit because they like to take these very, very wide rotations. And that's something that we saw enable them all the way when the zone was pulling over near staging. And I think that has continued to be good for them, even when they had to go through Geyser. Even though it is a very straight line, they had a lot of teams that they could sort of play with there. If the zone is pulling to Kick, I think that it almost feels like the walls are closing in around them because they don't really hold areas that much. They end up more pushing than anything else. We're back.
It's like we're gonna have a reset. If you weren't a fan of filling time, boy, do I got news for you. We're ready to do it some more. We'll get that game back up as quickly as possible, but yeah, that does allow us to continue to set the stage for the final few games.
For sure. I mean, we've only got 2 of them left to go. Before we do, though, we're going to check in on the players, as it seems like we've had a few connection issues, and we'll be right back to continue setting the stage for this next battle. All right, guys, welcome back. We're about to get into Game 4. We're waiting on a few people to load in, but J-How, I think it's important that as we are loading in, and as it's taken a little while, that we remind people that this is a race at the top, and it's between Kick, Clean, and Sheriffs. If you are just tuning in, if you have missed the first 4 games, first of all, go back and watch this last game, because it was insane. And secondly, what do they need to know, J-How? What are the key points here? How are these guys playing?
Well, I mean, we're seeing some very aggressive play from Clean and Kick. Both of these teams have done a lot. Kick had a monster game number 1, kind of fell off. Clean has consistently been fragging out of their mind, so much so that they haven't even won, but there were 2 games that they had first place in terms of points based on kills and placements alone. They've been consistently in the top 3. They've been fragging out of their mind. Kick had an unbelievable game number 4 as well. Neither of these teams won last game, but they were both the stars of that game, with Uprising being our game 4 winner. But these 2 teams have been so aggressive, and you got to imagine they have to keep the pace up if they want to secure. They know that they're neck and neck with another team who's fragging out against them.
They certainly do, and of course, Uprising taking that game was really big. Chiefs ended up landing right in a place where they're tied with them, and anybody in this sort of area also has the chance of being one of our 69 IQ teams that could theoretically find those wins and move themselves to the top spot, because today it is all about that top spot. You're accumulating points for the rest of the preseason qualifiers, but you are crucially fighting for being the one in first place at the end of 6 games, because if you are, you straight up qualify to the professional leagues.
I mean, just getting a spot, no matter how you get there. I mean, given how long some of these days have been for these games and these teams, first you have to get into the finals. That's already proven to be very difficult for a lot of our teams on both regions and a lot of our regions. So to get points on these days is very critical and very important, that if you're not going to be able to win throughout one of those weeks, that just getting placement points, it means every game matters. So if you're 20th place going into game number 6, guess what? That game has every bit as importance as game number 1. I think that's the best part about the format, is how critical not the game number 6, not game number 5, but how critical every single game is for these teams over a period of 4 weeks. So it's a fantastic experience so far. And so for all of our teams, top to bottom, it's fun to watch.
And I gotta say that speaking of that, we've got teams that have finally qualified here. I'm speaking specifically about Major Pushers, a team that everybody did expect to be involved last week. Haven't really been doing super well this week, and it is surprising, but the fact is that they're at the very least collecting points alongside Top Dogs, another team that sort of hangs around that level at the same time. Is now J-How, we're finally getting into the character select that should move us into a game that we actually get to play out.
Yeah, I want to see who's willing to take these challenges. You know, Kick, I think they got aggressive early, but then they had to play defensively, and it was the first time that they had been pressured back the same way. They even had to get a revive right in the middle there. Astralis had dipped out and kind of opened the door for Kick to get back into it. And you got to wonder if Astralis might have found better success going through that tunnel. So any number of things that have happened so far for these teams, one minor change, one bullet that misses from Uchako's clip there to stop people, we could be looking at an entirely different story. So game number 5, I'm expecting more of the same.
And as we drop down, we will have people like Kick taking a little bit longer to get to where they want to go, but the big question on everybody's mind is, where are we going for the end of the game? We've had a lot of North recently. We've had some stuff over there in the West by staging, because right now it seems like we might have a little bit of a fight by staging as well. Yeah,
this is early breakout. I just like to follow the teams that have a beacon scanner, which is almost everybody, so we can sneak peek the first zone. It's the least important while simultaneously being the most important. You know what I mean? are you going to get there, or what's your rotation going to be like? It tells your tale for the next like 15 minutes.
Exactly. It sort of sets you up as an underdog or not, and whether it fits your playstyle or not is really big. For right now, Weeb's out. Their playstyle seems to be very well suited at the moment. They've already gotten 2 knocks on Fight Club and might just find that third, as Valkyrie is running for the hills and maybe just into the waiting arms of another squad. You can see the zone on the mini-map, though, in the top left, and it seems like we're going a little bit more central this time around Harvester for the first one.
You told me we weren't going to talk about them.
It's true. It's true.
But here we are.
Well, I mean, if they're dying, you know, they're professional players. We gotta give them the respect.
Boy, they are sending it trying to get this. They need to be careful. We can see the mini map. They can't. Major Pushers seems to be lurking in the area, and if they catch them split, Major Pushers will get aggressive. We've seen them do it once already. Rotate out of Harvester and try and find some early KP. They are on the doorstep. See if they pull the trigger.
Something that I'd be really excited to see is, I mean, we talked about how zones can suit your playstyle or not. Harvester is pretty central, and I think that the fact that Major Pushes land there is no accident. There's a very high chance that they are more comfortable in this meta playing inside of the zone, and have been for a very long time. The fact that this first ring, at the very least, is pulling with them inside of it might give them a slightly better spot, because if we cast our minds back to game 1, they did really well at holding down the territory inside of staging for a very long time.
Yeah, they were not graced with a very good zone later, and that was the problem that they had. But when you are already there, we know Harvester, it's Harvester or that area west towards staging. We kind of get a sneak peek on the edge of the minimap from Clean, so we know it is potentially... We'll get a better look here. But I agree with you. Harvester can house a lot of teams, and they are one that can definitely benefit from it.
Yeah, I like that Clean are making an aggressive move for a snake. Snakes are very difficult to hold down, but this specific one is already being pushed by multiple teams, and there's a reason why, J-How. It gives you access, theoretically, to that hill right next door. If you are in that snake, or if you're in the position that Clean ended up finding themselves in right there, you have the chance to jump up later and kick. Jumping up, speaking of, as they find themselves inside of a fight, with Wako really needing to pull out that master tracking once again. He does it with the help of his friend Tiarka on the outside, and now, once again, we're going to get this team rezzing.
Yeah, the fact that they get this early KP, great for them. They'll have to rotate in later, but they have benefited so much from the early KP, fighting outside of areas where you know you're not going to be third-partied. Things are going in their favor. Great start for them. Meanwhile, we have a very different look for our other team in the top 2 of Clean that was playing for that zone. And I like that you brought that up with that hill, is that you can't really push. If a team holds that hill, a team doesn't really push you. It's hard to get pushed from inside of Harvester. So it is a great start, I think, for them on both sides.
And Top Dogs not nearly so lucky, as they did end up going down. We'll see how Al-Kabal ends up holding up, though, as they've got another pretty prized piece of real estate. Granted, this time it is to the south of zone, and it tends to be very highly contested when it's to the north. But these fences right outside of Thermal give you a lot of room, a lot of cover to play with, and you can alternate between this, the next, and even the underside choke through train.
Oh, wow. Clean already being contested down here. If they are going to fight, this has to be the time.
This isn't where they wanted to be fighting for sure, but some nice damage will keep Astralis at bay. As they come around the side, though, it's not going to be enough. Hestia ends up finding the knock on this Wraith, and is going to get yet another for the Thirst. Coming around with the shotgun will make 3, and it seems like this is a third party that's coming on the side where Hestia is unfortunately almost taken down, but manages to find that Mastiff shot.
That was Clean. Clean is out. That is crazy. Clean landed in the snake, but found their way over here. With Clean being out, we saw the early KP from Kick. Kick has to be looking at this kill feed, being very excited now.
But I will say that it's Astralis that is picking up those kills, and Astralis is not that far behind anyone. They're in 4th,
great point.
And so as happens happy as you can be as Kick, you gotta be worried about Astralis starting to pick up steam at the same time, because they found what it looks like almost 2 squad wipes there as they came in third party to dead inside. We talked about this area down here, the fences. They're definitely heavily contesting them right now and just trying to stay up, healing for the moment as the Arc Star can be thrown, but they're not quite ready for the push yet, and the rest of the team is lagging behind.
They have such an unusual setup. When you have a Loba, your offensive abilities aren't really offensive. I mean, you kind of have a character that's kind of dead in the water in the middle of a fight, and that's not normally your forte. So we'll check back in on that. Meanwhile, No Fear using that drone acts as a security camera towards the north. 2 members will hold the south.
Uprising are finding some kills, stacking themselves up as well. No Fear does not look like they're living up to the name based on their positioning, but it is very smart positioning, and that's the thing that we can say. They control multiple chokes, and on the high ground are very difficult to push successfully. Nades are their only weakness from this point, and while Dead Inside are also looking to take control of the high ground, they are going to finally finish that rotation they were trying to make earlier to middling success.
Man,
control the high ground. They are going to finally finish that rotation they were trying to make earlier to middling success.
Man, I just can't believe clean out this early, and as you pointed out, Astralis being the team to make that happen. Don't have the nameplates now, but we'll keep our eyes on where Kick lands. This zone does tend to house a lot of teams. I believe Sheriffs, by the way, is on that hill, or on the house on the hill in this zone. I think we got a quick look at them. So that's a team that is within striking distance and another team that plays zones very well. I think we'll check back in there later. So a team to keep our eyes on down the road.
Their reads have been really good so far, and just ability to hold prime real estate is solid. Weeb's out, though they've ended up taking what looks like prime real estate, but what major pushers know is a really risky spot. As all the way down here, trying to hold up in that building is really tough. Seems like they're trying to convert it into a few kills with a nice thermite and some wingman shots, but not going on an aggressive push just yet, as Buck has to respect that he is alone, and even on the Wraith can be taken down and thirsted very quickly.
The longer they stay here, I think the greater the risk of another team showing up, and I think this is wise, especially when you get cracked, to back up. They do have to be careful of a third party. A lot of teams are going to be trying to poke here, not necessarily get aggressive, but at least kind of poke their head around and assess the area. Buck taking a charge rifle shot. I mean, you're Wraith, but might as well just chill for a few.
Yeah, the charge rifle we saw coming across earlier, and they've definitely drawn enough attention to the team on the low ground if that was their objective. I'm sure kills would be nice, but just keeping this other squad nailed down as well by everybody else will be really good. We take a look at Sheriffs right now as they are having a fun time with their heirloom. It's not often that I get to see somebody inspect a Gibraltar heirloom.
It looks amazing. It's like carrying around a torch, though, so if you're sneaking up or crouching and hiding around somebody, you might want to tuck that thing away.
Right now, I think they're just fine drawing attention to themselves as they're pretty safe. No Fear, same, pretty safe up here as well. We saw, you called out rather, that drone from earlier that is defending their backsides. There's not even too much or too many teams that will go through there. We saw a few earlier on, I think specifically one that hadn't made the rotation through Fragment yet, likely now coming down through Harvester, as we see another team holding up on that hill, and they've taken it a little bit too early, something you and I, J-How, know can be a deadly sin.
Yeah, you know, we'll take a greater look at this here in a second. Odin Gamers, the one team running a Bloodhound, they will play off scans. They know they can move in here. No Fear, if that zone pulls towards the hill, or let's say the north side of that bridge, it will either be on the hill or towards the bottom near the wall that they hold. No Fear actually holds a really good position. If it's on the other side of the bridge, that's where Sheriffs excel. So depending on which side of the bridge is which team is going to have the better position. I think No Fear in a great spot, but the team on the hill, they are going to be in everybody's crosshairs. Make no mistake about it. We'll keep an eye here as Odin Gamers has made their way into the snake beyond the caustic barrels, and it's uprising the team. Oh, that's why it's hard to hold.
That is a little bit of a taste of their own medicine too. I can't help but enjoy the irony there as Uprising, who ended up wielding the Kraber last game, are now being sieged down. We take a look back at Odin, though, not just the only team running a Bloodhound, but the only team running a Bangalore at the same time. The obscuring of visibility is strong with these ones. They push into a Caustic team with the smokes down as well. Shadow's trying to hold on to dear life up here, but the Arcstar going to connect onto both of them, end up downing him as well, leaving YY the only one alive up top. Odin end up finding the win with this unorthodox composition in the meantime, and Harvester's getting spicier, JL.
I always talk about this when it's relevant, but DigiDay, now I watch Shiv, loves to play Bangalore. DigiDay in the Crafter is a fantastic day to run Bangalore, okay? Oh, this is bad. One shot here. Uprising, one lone member. Don't know if they'll last for much longer. They're out. But DigiDay is always a fantastic day to run Bangalore. I'm just going to say that.
and the fact that they haven't been running this the whole time means that nobody's really ready for it. This is sort of a way to try and cheese a win if you want, to get yourself a composition that nobody is prepared for, that nobody will be crafting digis in to get ready to deal with. And Kick, speaking of dealing with, that's going to be tough for the squad on the other side. It seems like they're going to try and balk out, and they are ready, but unfortunately the shots don't quite connect, and it seems like there's going to be a free rotation here. No even crack coming through means that Kick now are fully on the edge and uncontested as they push into Harvester.
They would have loved to have gotten some more KP there, because they do have to rotate in amongst all of these teams, and there's limited space for them to go. You can see they're pinging on the left on the tracks, which means they have to go up, which means they'll likely have to use a Valk ult to do it, or they'll have to run forward and do some climbing in the eyes and the sight of others. And with the zone now being on the western part of Harvester or that hill, there's no guarantee that you're going to have a place to land. So Kick, they've got to figure out what their strategy is. Of course, the scanning from Valkyrie's ult does give them some information. They'll have to reply quickly. Here we go. This is a big play. This is a really big play this game.
And it's good that All Planned is holding up the backside as well, because it's keeping all eyes from being on Kick. Remember, they still cannot play this too risky. They can't be landing right on top of somebody, because they're in contention for a top spot. And right now, I think that's them soaring right above Harvester. We'll have to see where they end up landing. Is Dead Inside or holding up the other side of staging? Have that Kraber, but barely missing the shot. We're going to hold on till later. Somehow, some way, these Kravers continue to find their hands into deadly squads.
Dead Inside, one of our teams returning from week 1, so for them to continue to pick up points is good. We haven't called their name a lot today, but they are in a position now to potentially pick up more. Oh, hold on a second. That Valkyrie just kind of standing there. The portal goes back the other direction. So now All Planned getting some prime KP. I'm not sure if that's there. Oh my goodness.
That's a nice stick.
Would you like another?
Yeah, there's more where that came from for sure, and even more damage comes through. Even gets a knock there, which should be enough, but notice that All Planned isn't pushing it just yet, and they send their Valkyrie down to get an angle instead. They don't want to give up this spot, but they also really, really want what's inside of those nice loot boxes. As Bubble goes down, I don't know if All Planned is going to be able to get away with it.
No. They would have loved to have gotten those thirsts, but that is thwarted by a third party, and they'll just take their loot via the old-fashioned way with a Lopa ult.
No, we'll see if they can survive a Bloodhound coming up behind them as well, as we've already seen that take out one squad. All Planned is still looking to throw nades down onto the unsuspecting below. And hey, you find shots here as well with the smoke coming out by a little bit more extra cover. Sirius does some serious damage with the Volt. And the ring closing in behind them means that their backs will once again be safe. Something that cannot be undervalued at this point in the game.
No, and in this position, being in the top middle of Harvester, it's tough. And now we do see it will be towards that hill. And this is when that becomes a very dominant spot to hold. And there's room up there for 2, maybe 3. There's also a team that can hold underneath in the ravine. That's good. We'll keep our eyes here, all planned, rolling through here. That's going to be some KP in their hands. But a team can exist in the ravine, 2 on the hill. Those are the spots that people will look for. But with 10 teams, you got to get creative. No fear. We know the team that was holding the choke. We haven't checked on them in a while. So a lot of key spots that will be coming up in Zone 4 going into Zone 5.
Seems like for right now, we got major pushers involved in a fight with Kick at the same time as this, and that is really, really big. Major pushers are not to be messed with despite their lower placements today, and Kick can't afford to run into and be taken down by that squad just yet. 3 Jabronis playing this a little bit safer, going on the low ground right here. I think are going to be spotted out, and the Thermite almost connects, but they are going to stay alive for now, having to retreat right back under and further outside of the ring just to stay up. Shots from the low ground might be a little bit risky for them. Dome ends up dropping, and the heals are going to come in, but that is their second life, and now their only life that they have left to play with.
They do have an ult if they want to go out, but it will be right in the sight of all the other teams that are here. If they hear another fight breaking out or other things going, they can use that to reposition. They are doing well just to have survived. Nice. Remember, that was the team that was underneath getting shelled by nades, but they have survived.
5 bullets left. 9 squads that do remain, and Chiefs among them right now are taking the opposite hill. Not nearly as valuable, but a lot safer to have, and trying to run down this house for now. They can't really be shot in the back as the next ring closes. We got to wait for that one to come in, but here it goes. 30 seconds left, and the team with the Kraber up top is being pushed out. It seems like they're being taken down as well, as Kick is really going off on the kill feed.
Yeah, Kick just rolled No Fear to take what might be the best spot in the game. Kick, we know Clean went out early. Kick, one of our top teams, definitely first place now. And if they can have another good game, might be positioning themselves for a first place finish today. We'll keep an eye on that action later. Right now, Chiefs dropping down, do have to move back up on top of the hill where they were. And it looks like now they've given up too much positioning. They do have a rock to hide behind, but it will be Kick. That zone that pulls over towards that outing, pulls down towards them. Kick now has the dominant position. We'll see if they can maintain that, but one team in the ravine scouting out, bird's eye view here thanks to our crypto drone. And it's going to be Chiefs. That's going to be a headshot. The Kraber comes out. When you're sitting still in that drone, you are an easy target, sir.
Fortunately for him, and that is going to be the thirst as well, with Tycoon also falling. Rolling in survives the defensive bombardment, but now the push that's coming in afterwards is unlikely to be thwarted. Gonna throw that Skynade for right now, see if he can connect with something. But Kick just have to sit down here, bide their time, and it seems like they're even putting a little bit more cover in for themselves as double mobile respawn beacons are forming a pseudo wall in front of them.
Yeah, the team on the right is their biggest threat, and the team coming up from the ravine also. They have that little outing you can see right near that on the left. That's where it pokes out. It normally pulls to the left of their viewpoint. Dead inside, trying to move up and finish the kills. Stan goes forward, Loba cues backwards. But it's Kick, our team that we need to keep our track on who's going to be there. Nades are going to help clean this up. Rolligan is going to be dropped. And that's going to be some KP here for Dead Inside, who did get the other one as well. Valuable KP from them. Round 5 about to close.
Really, really good stuff and good patience from Dead Inside. But right now they need to hold on to it as a nice shot ends up completely decimating the team that was looking to peek in them. Almost finds another, but Stanley ends up going low instead. Does find the knock in the meantime. Dead Inside are hanging on by a thread, but very, very close to being out of ammunition for that one ace in their pocket.
Well, Kick, there's 2 bubbles on the left of our viewpoint now. That's where Kick is. We'll watch the kill feed. Kraber shot. If you land another, that's going to be a crack. They're going to push off of that. And here they go. Dead Inside moving up to take over. They are the king of the hills with 5 squads left. The fighting's down at the bottom. Weaves out that team over here by Kick. And this is the team that could be the gatekeeper, but it's going to be Buck who's going to fall. Kick with Uchaku still making plays happen. 4 squads left, 10 players total.
Yarka was knocked down. We'll see if they can get him up. Still 4 squads remaining, though, and dead inside is the focus of at least one of them, trying to heal up on top of this hill. Kick has managed to get Yarka back into the game, and now we're healing up, looting up, and getting ready for the next push. As in 40 seconds, this zone is going to close, but I suspect that we're going to see Nox very, very soon before then.
30 seconds. This rock is where they can peek out. The Ravine team is always the surprise team here. It's hard to focus them, and they get to control when they come up, or it's the zone at most. That is always the scariest team going into this last zone. You can see Dead Inside already has them in their sights. They would love to take care of them now, but Dead Inside still has a great position here on top of the hill.
You gotta look out for Kick, who definitely want to take them down. 2 major threats and nothing you can really do about them as the portal gets Kick even closer. They end up taking out No Fear, though, moving us down to 3 squads. As well done, Shex. Once again, he's managed to pull it out, but it hasn't been quite enough. Nice laser, though, from Stanny is going to keep the enemy at bay. As Fizu almost ends up going down as well, gets the shield bat just in time. It is on a knife's edge right now, and it looks like Kick may have found themselves the best angle.
That box is where everybody wants to play, but with only 3 teams left, they might not have that angle. Dead Inside shooting down at the team in the Ravine. They have the sight lines on both. They can't take their eyes off of one team or the other. Again, the Ravine team is the one that can really disrupt all of this. Bubble was already used. See if Kazakh Boy tries to ult over there on the side, but here comes a portal forward. That's going to be directly on them. Dead Inside shooting down.
Kick can take this, absolutely. This bubble being expended, the fact that these 2 squads have to fight. Dead Inside is getting ready. They're not even looking at Kick right now as they roam upwards, waiting for their time to strike. The Arc Star is going to come out. Dead Inside have to full commit to the fight right now, and they cannot get any utility out. The shields are gone, and they're being chewed through as Kick comes around behind, ends up finding a knock. Kazakh Boy ends up answering right back. He's the last one left remaining, but just from the side, Kick are ready. They pick off those kills, and as 3, they look for the last one to take the win in Game 5.
Boy, did they earn that one. They fought out of the zone. They worked their way in, and when they worked their way in, they didn't take a spot, Dia. They took the best spot in the game out of No Fear's hands. Now, No Fear did have 1 member remaining to rat that out to get a top 4 finish, but it was Kick that took that spot, took the best spot in the game again, and managed to get a first place victory, catapulting their way ahead going into our final game for that spot, that guaranteed spot for ALGS.
That was the game that they needed, and oh my god, I mean, like we've talked about the fact that they can play really, really well in terms of the micro, that they can outfight people, but to see them be able to pull off the rotations there, to identify that spot, to wrestle it from No Fear, and to be able to turn it into a win is amazing. It is a true display of skill, and we're gonna have to take a break to figure out exactly how much in the lead they are, how impossible it is gonna be to close that gap, or whether somebody can make that jump. We'll be right back in just a few minutes with the final game of the day. And boy, oh boy, Jay Howe, it is Christmas time here as we have gotten some incredible games, some incredible performances, and now we get the chance to see, especially for Kick, how those have all panned out in the scoreboards as they had a wild game last time, and hey, no surprise here, they ended up well and truly in command of the scoreboard.
Yeah, and when you see that Clean went out as early as they did, that means that their lead will be much larger. Astralis only with 4 points, despite them being the team that took out Clean. So Kick will have a really big lead. A lot of these teams are just playing for points from now on. But I'm just really curious, how many points is Kick gonna need to just kind of close it out? Because keep in mind, they have been contested in almost every game early. So it's not a guarantee that they're going to make it out alive.
No, certainly not. Although I will say that Kick thrive in the early contest. It is something that we talk about as a 50-50. And hey, maybe for them, it's a 60-40. Maybe for them, it's a 70-30. But still, that percent chance that you end up going out with 0 points is really, really scary and something to be worried about for these teams. I think we've seen that happen to a few teams there, 18th through 20th, that weren't quite able to clutch it out. And that's something that Kick, of course, having watched the kill feed last time, everybody else will be watching to see if a member of Kick is falling. And if they can finish that off, all the better.
Man, Clean is going to need to play out of their minds. They're going to need a first place finish and some KP. And by some, I mean a lot of KP. And they're going to need Kick to go out early. But this is Kick on a massive run today. They won game number 1. They won game number 5. They fragged out every game in between. This might be your second qualifier here for the EMEA region for ALGS.
Very well might be. Or rather, it should be. We've gotten to the point throughout all of these qualifiers, throughout the semifinals, the quarters, the open, the most games that anybody's won in a row has been 2. Kick, they could find their way to that third. Of course, 69 IQ last week ended up doing just that as they made their run into the top. Kick already finding themselves on the top, and by 25 points, no less. Like you say, it's a big jump for Clean to have to make. Not one that we haven't seen before, but definitely something that Kick should be feeling comfortable in. And now they just got to play this last game slow. And that's the worry for me, is that slow play style turns into Kick not really doing anything.
Yeah, we've seen the pace, of course, for these games be slow to where there's 15 teams going from round 3 to round 4. And that can be very zone dependent, of course, on where it's at, how open and exposed it is. But the more buildings there are, the more teams that can stay in there, which means that there's less teams that go out as quickly. So that pressure could mount over time. You got to expect with a team as experienced as Kick, though, that this, I would say, is probably about as close to a sure thing as you can get. You're probably sitting at about 99% chance that Kick goes on to clinch their spot after this game. But with Apex, anything is on the table, and Clean has been fragging out in the majority of their games, so it's not impossible for them to close that gap.
And we get to see how the rest of the teams start to stack up their own points as well, because there is, make no mistake, plenty of ground to cover here for everybody. Still, coming out of the day at 38 points, 41 points, 34 points, just to name a few, you're going to be very happy, especially if you can make it into qualifiers next week, because that's something that we talked about last week for just a little bit. But the fact is that with the top team essentially being taken out of the running every week, you also have a little bit of an easier time making it every time.
Man, it is easier. I just can't see a world where Kick doesn't get in. Everybody's playing for second now.
What I'm saying is that because Kick is likely to go in, next time you go into the qualifiers in qualifier 3, you don't have to play against Kick because they're not going to be playing.
Opens up a whole POI.
Exactly. You get what is very close to Big Mod. Sometimes those teams that land at Lava City kind of amalgamate with Big Mod. I think we've had a different squad landing Big Mod today as well. Since we're dropping in right now into our very last game of the day, we're going to get the chance to confirm that for sure. And yeah, Kick landing Big Mod and Lava City belonging to Top Dogs only makes sense for this lobby.
Top Dogs, will you try and contest early?
I don't think so. Top Dogs were the first team to go out to kick last time, and I think that's still stinging. But this very well may sting as well. So we get that read on the first ring, and it is south. It's something that still should be in the realm of possibility for Kick to be able to pull out a good game from, but it's significantly closer to home than a lot of other zones that they've had to play.
There's not a lot of zone endings in that area. I mean, if it pulls the tree or the bridge on the east side of that, just south of Harvest Store, or it's the one near the fences on the left side, northeast of Thermal. There's not a lot of zones over there or potentially near the train tracks. Time will tell. We'll keep track of that. So depending on which side of the cliff you're on, we'll we'll determine probably how easy this game will be for you. So not the real estate that we were talking about before going into this game, because you're either going to be on one side or the other, and one of those is going to be good, one of those is going to be bad.
Yeah, Clean, at the very least, have themselves in a good spot for right now. They're right around the edge of the ring. Are, I would say, likely to make that push into Harvester again as we get the read on the next one. Since you can sort of snake your way through Harvester, no pun intended, and find yourself in a really good position. For right now, making that loot up around the 2-minute mark is when a lot of the teams a little bit more north of here are going to start moving. If they want to play inside of the zone, if you're over at Overlook, now is when you start making your way over, and that's where Clean can also kind of play gatekeeper as well. A whole world of possibilities is open to them, and they're arguably one of the more flexible squads, or in one of the more flexible positions that we have in this last lobby.
Based on loadout alone, I don't think Clean is looking to frag out, all right?
No.
When you carry around a charge rifle and an EVA, you're not exactly going headhunting. So I think they're content with playing for points. They were in week number 1. They didn't have a great week number 1, though, but they've had a fantastic week number 2. We expect to see them potentially in week 3 and week 4. They're a team that I think a lot of people would say should be in those weeks. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're playing for points at this point. I don't blame them at all.
Kick, we're coming around the back there. We'll see if they catch Top Dogs off guard as they move their way into Lava City from an unorthodox angle. Chiefs involved in a fight, showing up in the kill feed a little bit there as well. Had picked up 1 kill already, and I'm sure looking for a little bit more, perhaps a thirst, as they jump forward and end up seeing somebody on the exit through Geyser. Unlikely to catch up with them at this point, but it will be one team operating at a pretty sincere deficit. Losing a member right now, it's difficult things to be sure, and Chiefs get to continue raining down fire on the teams that are in between them and the ring.
Guys are always a fun spot to kind of rotate through and from. It's kind of on the other side, though, so I think they'll be able to cleanly get in over there. I think these teams now are seeing the tree teams are the ones I think are going to be the safest. They're going to be on what you could consider a pivot point. So if it doesn't pull the tree, which it kind of looks like it might be pulling the tree, you can rotate pretty easily to one side or the other. I mentioned teams not fragging. I take that back. This is Clean running through a team here real quick.
They had a charge rifle and also an EVA. So it seems like the EVA ended up working out for them inside of the building. Chiefs was thinking about pushing this, but reading the kill feed, I think they also know that Clean didn't end up losing a single member on that push. And knowing that something's up now, Clean is maybe looking for a little bit more blood. As with that charge rifle, you can't find a chunk, you can't find a knock. For right now, going to be hovering right outside of that next circle push, and Chiefs are going to have to rotate all the way outside. Even thinking about going through tunnel right now is they don't want to walk through Clean. They know what Clean has been doing to these lobbies.
I think they just have to no matter what. I don't think this is something that you have for an armor check or anything that you want to play around that. They're not a team that's running a Valkyrie. They have a portal. It's very hard to go through those chokes. They know you normally could try and play here for a little bit, but I think going the safe route that also does deny Clean potential KP. So if they see that team did exit out, how quickly will they rotate for another one? Look, it's not inconceivable that they don't get 15 kills. I mean, they came pretty close to doing that. I mean, they had, I think, 13 or 15 kills in one of the games, maybe even more. They just didn't get a first place finish. So it's very possible for them to rack up more. It would be a miraculous ending. It's not off the table yet.
No, we'll have to see how Kick end up playing it. That's the big determiner, because you drop a 30-point game, that's fine. But if a 9-point game goes the way of Kick, it's still their win, and that's the problem that you have to deal with. And right now, Kick have been playing this very safely. They've been rotating through places that they know should already be looted, from Dome, where Dead Inside land, to Lava City, where Top Dogs landed and ended up exiting out of. Now on their way in through the zipline, arguably the riskiest move they've made all day, but they know that nobody really should be here, and that's what makes it okay.
Well, they always have a contingency plan, and you expect teams to either rotate directly into this building. They have the far west side that gets you into tree, and if all of those areas are covered, all those avenues that you would normally rotate in, you just dip out. And it looks like they're playing the edge of zone. They're pinging the big building that faces towards Lava Siphon. Not sure if they're willing to try and hold that, but they are moving in the general vicinity, and if things go wrong, they'll always have that backup plan.
I like the way that they approach it as well, dropping 1 in from the sky, 2 in from the other doors, just in case somebody was holding this building. Be sure to bamboozle them, potentially be able to find a little bit of a pick. Now finding their first resistance, as they're not trying to push just yet, but at least have an eye on the next threat, the next person on the map over in Lava Siphon. This is technically inside of the ring, and Kick from here should be able to play the edge.
So risky to play too patient. At the same time, you don't expect your second place person to get a first place finish and minimum 13 KP to surpass you. So playing for points is perfectly acceptable, playing for zone, and I don't blame them one bit. There's very little risk involved. There's a lot more risk making a different call.
Right now, Clean making the safe calls. You talked about this charge rifle a little bit earlier. They're the ones that are taking the time, farming up the shield in the middle of Lava Siphon. Certainly an area that is pushable, but Knots and Unlucky should be putting the gas traps by the doors, checking out on top, or just staring at each other as they walk by, likely making calls about the map. This is a little bit of a risky position because you're leaving your backs open, but Clean for right now in a central place have also put themselves in the best spot to pick up KP. That is if Odin doesn't take it all away from them first, as they've already found a member of Chiefs and are looking for even more with this Bloodhound on the prowl, and Shades and Vic to back him up.
There's no way you're running from this one. Bloodhound in pursuit. I mean, they're taking zone damage. They'll just keep scanning, keep tracking down, and this is basically about to be all she wrote. They'll heal up right underneath this. Easy team push. It's so easy that Vic's like, hey, you guys got this, right? The Shades is like, maybe.
Looks a little risky right now. Chiefs has managed to find a knock. Shades is looking for him right now, pops into the building to get a quick heal off, but this has all of a sudden become a 50-50 where it was not before. To get that thirst to deny a little bit more information, Chiefs will lose another member. Shield swap ends up coming in, but now needing a little bit of backup, it seems like Chiefs have managed to escape for now. 3 Jabronis, on the other hand, you talked about the teams playing over by tree, have one of the better spots inside of it. They've got this building over here that is right on the edge, giving them what you talked about as a nice pivot, but also access to the outside, and more importantly, to the truck on the high ground if they need to get up there.
A lot of safety to be had for our tree teams. Noblesse. One member has survived. See if that nade lands.
This is one of those
Nothing there yet, yeah.
This is one of those places that I really hate fighting in, because I know, or we know, that at this point, nobody should be here to hear you scream. This is Noblesse's territory right now, and as they jump down to the low ground to get a little bit of a different angle, going to be able to retreat right back up. It is a 1v2, and Kuvo is in a little bit more trouble than he bargained for. Arc Stars are coming up. They're going to land and do a lot of damage, but has to disengage from that res to try and fend off these teams that are coming up the zip line. It'll be okay for now. Finally taking that portal, though, finding Flesh. The Arc Star ends up landing, but does not stick. Kubo stays alive for now, and is able to actually find Flesh one more time, but 3 people, and Astralis end up taking the fight.
Yeah, a team that's been here for 2 weeks and a team that's performed in both weeks. Astralis making a strong statement here in week number 2 to secure one of the 16 spots that will be available at the conclusion of 4 weeks, barring they don't get it through the automatic in 3 or 4, as they have been one of our better performing teams through the first 2 weeks. So making a great base for them long term going into weeks 3 and 4.
Yeah, major pushers are on what is a common rotation if you're taking the way up towards staging, but instead for them will just be the simplest move, the most direct line in towards the ring. This is a little bit of an awkward spot because it does control multiple chokes, but it gives them the most space. And you and I, Jay, have talked about controlling space earlier. For major pushers on low shields, it is honestly, to me, the highest risk move that they could take. And I think it's because they're trying to put up a really high point game. They haven't had that good of a day.
Yeah, and I think the reason why it's hard to hold it when you have different avenues that you can be pushed from is that normally there's somebody on either side. It's just really hard for you to be pushed because that other team might come in. But if you end up dropping and you're not holding very well and you get cracked and you have to go the other direction, like, you can't go there. Somebody else will shoot you. So you really have to dig your heels into the ground to defend that. And that's what's tough. Meanwhile, Kick has made the rotation. They are playing safe. They're watching their back, and they're taking away from the first zone to the second zone. They're taking away angles from teams that are able to push them in the back. So they are playing a very safe and reserved last game to try and secure their spot.
This place brings back memories, J-How. This is where I first saw Kick drop a 12-kill game with Rev Octane when they by no means should have been able to survive that right outside Lava Siphon there before it became Lava Siphon and was just Sorting Factory. Really makes me smile to see them return to it. We'll see if they're able to continue playing safe, as I expect nobody will really be contesting them around the edges of the map right there. Sort of the benefit to the edge of the map. You don't pick up nearly as many kills if you aren't playing aggressive, but also very unlikely to be found, especially if you're Kick, who can fight them out anyway. Astralis, having found some kills of their own, now making their way up towards this northern end and maybe a little bit further in towards Thermal, as that seems to be where the ring has more or less pulled us. Likely, it seems to be pulling into the small village just outside.
There's the village, and then there's out in the open directly below that fence line on the high ground. So those are the two spots that are generally the ones that you want to control. And you mentioned major pushers just moments ago. They now control the fates of a lot of teams coming from tree. There's a team that can go under, but we see there's already a team underneath that tunnel. That actually might be major pushers on top. There's one team that can go in the tunnel, and that's it. Everybody else will have to go in there. There is an outside shot that the fence on the right side of that cliff, there is a zone that ends over there. That would be pretty gruesome for all the teams on the west side of it. So not confirmed yet, because there is a spot there that could be the ending. More out in the open. That one would be pretty rough for all of our teams.
That's something that we'll have to keep our eyes on as the zone reveals itself. 40 seconds until this next one closes, though, has put Red Dragon into high gear as they push through what was previously Major Pushers territory. Let's see if it still is, because they're under fire. We just don't know from who yet.
We have to assume that is them. Meanwhile, Clean in the kill feed, not on the good side. We'll check back in there here soon. But this is the village you mentioned where a lot of teams want to hold.
Major pushers right in that building over there, so it seems like their territory has been taken previously. Now holding up inside of this village, likely the safer play for the long run, although it does give them a little bit less opportunity to control the flow of the game. They're forfeiting that for the opportunity to be able to third party, hold down a building, stay safe for the longest amount of time.
That team, or the building that Major Pushers is in, can house two teams. You would force one out. You have to decide on how long you're willing to try and hold both floors. We'll check back into there. Red Dragon, Jibby ults coming down. We'll force out bubbles on both sides. But once bubbles are down, that means there's only one thing left to do, and it's fight time. And it looks like Red Dragon is the team moving forward. PK shots landed once. Did not hit the next two. But the Rampage is coming out trying to do damage, and that is going to be the death of Buckin's squad. Meanwhile, we're moving back over to Astralis, who was engaged earlier with Clean.
Opposite side of the map right now as they look to make their way inside of the next ring. Panning back over to Kick, who've been on the receiving end of some damage. Dealt some themselves, although it's been very little. Have a lot of ground to cover right now and not a whole lot of ways to do it safely. Might have to burn Wraith Portal to get out of that car lest they risk being knocked. Clean have made their way onto the low ground, and they're honestly in a position that I don't mind that much because there is a zone that will pull towards them. Australis, not so lucky.
They guarantee spots. They don't necessarily guarantee the KP that they're looking for, but they do have sight lines and opportunities of teams that will rotate in on this next zone, barring the teams just killing each other as Pat actually is going to get the knock with the missile swarm. Not sure if they can follow up on that, but Chiefs, they're going to peek around the corner, say hello. Ooh. But they were met with resistance as Chiefs now going to look for the res. Tycoon is down, but it's Australis that's coming in and cleaning things up.
Taking down Chiefs in the meantime. Seems like Australis end up finding themselves the kill leader position as well, but Kick is still suffering losses. Clean might have been able to hold this out. I think we're waiting for the last member to drop here, and then Kick will be out of it. We'll have to check in with them, see if they're still alive.
Yeah, that's the big story. 2 people went down on the kill feed. We're trying to figure out what's going on. Uchako, however, has kind of neutralized, but it's Uprising who's nearby. Any bit of KP that they get is a major plus. This is them. They are within a bubble. There's 3 seconds till the zone closes in. That is a glitch right now, but there's still a zone at their back, and the zone is coming in. This is very troublesome for Kick.
This is really, really bad. I believe they've got the banner. We'll see if they can pull off another miracle res. But right now, the game should be in the hands of Clean. They still have to deny those placement points, though, as Clean holding up here. Have a really good place for adapting to whatever circle comes next, and have a lot of cover to be provided with that caustic as well. You talked about the pseudo rampart walls inside of the chaotic sort of cover structure that this provides. It's really good as Unlucky finds another pick and might even get a third as it gets taken away from him by major pushers inside of the building.
Yeah, they need all of those, so anything that gets sniped away from them is reducing their chances drastically. So it's Kick. I don't know if they make it in. Watch the kill feed. The ring has taken out Kick. The ring has taken out Kick, opening the door a little bit wider for Clean. Clean has at least 5 KP. They have to get more. Remember, they need at least, I believe, 13 KP to tie, so they'll have to get aggressive and clean up a lot of this lobby. They're moving in aggressively, and if the time is now, the time is now. They're coming in, and they are coming in. Shotties out. There's 1 knock, 1 thirst, and they are looking for more with 8 teams left, 7 other teams. They have a lot more work to do, but we're getting there.
Yeah, Clean could actually do this and all planned. Ooh, eating a thermite is going to be a little bit risky, especially because we know that they're right next door. As Clean walk by, they want to take a fight inside of this building. The Eva will certainly help them do it as Dolph finds yet another knock, and they end up very, very quickly finishing off the rest of major pushers.
They have at least 7. They have at least 7. And there is plenty of KP still left. There is a chance right now that Clean can take the qualifier spot still. It is still within their grasp. Teams are fighting right next to them. So Clean looking to get aggressive. They don't get on this, but they're looking to try a third party. There's going to be some shots going out. They're going to try and get on this. Clean somehow is fighting their way through. They need to frag. They need the kills. They are somehow, some way finding a chance to make this happen. This is unbelievable.
They pick up a little extra, and now Kick is praying. Hail Mary full of grace as Clean once again finish off a fight. They're going. You can see that defensive bombardment ready to be thrown, but you're waiting for the bubble to go down. Thermite goes out. Defensive bombardment to follow it up, and 1 knock would get you another one.
They just got 2.
They got it right over, and now with defensive bombardment doing the rest of the work, they're going to pick up another kill. Kill leader belongs to Dolph, and they are ready to take this game, take this win, move themselves into the pro leagues, and it just comes with 2 other squads between them and
Unlucky just got another one. Unlucky just got another one. This is unreal. This is absolutely unreal. They're sitting on at least 12, and now it is Clean. They need not just the KP, but they need a first place finish. They are beaming. This team is on fire right now.
really low on ammo is Nuts, but he is looking for an angle in. You can't stop now. This momentum is glorious. And pushing around the corner with the L-Star. Black Lotus ends up falling, and one more lies in wait as the Eva will
Oh my God.
moving us down to the last two squads. Clean are ready to take the win, but here come Astralis from the side. They are massive, and they are ready to take the fight as well. The third party is a little late, but is it going to be enough? As Astralis finds left, Sabron ends up going low, but does end up finding the knock onto Dolph. With one member left, Astralis steal away the win from Clean.
Oh my goodness. They took the ALGS qualifier spot and ripped it out of the hands of Clean. Just straight up ripped it out of their hands.
My heart is pounding, J-How.
Clean, I think, could have maybe taken that a little slower. They know that they needed lots of KP. They chose to push the Gibby team or the Caustic team. I don't know if they needed to do that, and I'm pretty sure a second place finish would not have given them enough. They fragged out of their mind. But I don't think the second place finish gave them enough placement points. And I believe that Kick will be our week 2 qualifiers for ALGS. But before we declare anything, I don't want to make that statement yet because Clean had a game that they needed to have, a game of the ages, might have come up just short.
I mean, they went out with 0 KP. I think they may have got 1 point based on placement, but so much of this is hurdling the rest of that. I think we probably got a placement in the high 20s. It might have been 30s through the KP, but it is all up to it's all up to how Clean ended up playing that. And make no mistake, I mean, Astralis played that remarkably as well. They got themselves in the best position to win the game, and Clean may have taken things a little bit too fast, but
they still might have done it though.
They might have.
I'm calculating this. I think Clean might actually be our team in.
Well, because they wiped, like, one squad is the difference between first and second in terms of kills. And so it really just comes down to whether I don't even know what we do in the case of a tie. I would have to consult our rule book because, like, holy moly, was that ever close. As now we just sit and wait. And I guess you and I, J-How, get the chance to reflect on all the craziness we've seen today.
I don't want to wait. I want to. Can we stay here? Can we just stay here?
We're staying.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable what we just witnessed from Clean to just run through. They didn't just casually do it. They ran through like it was a gauntlet, and they went through one team and then another team and another team. Think about if this is a tie or 1 kill away. Major pushers took 1 kill away from the team rotating in from the tunnel side. I mean, that is how razor thin this will be. They ran up there. They got kills. They wrapped around. They got kills. They moved across. I have never seen a team move so fluidly and so determined and execute quite that way. Now, they would love that first place. The first place, I think, guarantees it. Second place, we've got to put it to the tally. But that was a masterpiece to watch at the end.
Okay, well, take a look at the leaderboards right now. 26 points belonged to Clean. And, well, if we're taking a look at what they needed, I'm not sure if they made it. Kick ended up getting, what was that, 3? So we're going to be really, really close. I can't quite remember the number.
It's Kick.
Clean were in the high 50s. Is it really Kick?
It was Kick. Clean was 25 points behind. 25 points behind, meaning that this should be Clean at 81, Kick at 83, and it is Kick, our second qualifier into the ALGS, but not before sweating bullets, as Clean almost pulled it out. But it is Kick, after a phenomenal day, is going to be your ALGS qualifier.
It is razor thin, the margin by which they make it, but now Kick don't have to sweat anymore. Their next challenge is the Pro League, where they will be able to go head-to-head against the very best teams that EMEA has to offer, and I am excited to see them there, because from their performances today, they're going to be joined by some stars.
That is, I mean, Kick is a team that I think on paper everybody knew they would make it in to ALGS without a doubt. It's how they did it. They did it in impressive fashion today. It looks like Clean, Australis, teams that have been here through week 1 and week 2 have been performing well, will likely be the teams down the road through one of the 16 squads, but look for these teams to rebound next week, Dia, to potentially be the team that just says, you know what, we don't want to play week number 4, we want in now. But man, I tell you, major kudos to Clean. Australis had a fantastic day. Sheriffs won a couple of games. There's a lot of contenders now, but there's definitely a couple of front runners, and Clean just, I mean, man, when doing well feels so bad and so good all at the same time. It means they'll have to keep playing, but boy, what a game. What a game.
Incredible stuff. And hey, I can't wait to see what teams we end up getting who do return, because we talk about Clean and Australis. They've made it twice, but they still have to make it again. Sheriffs, this was their first time, and there's a chance that with the high turnover that we've seen in preseason qualifiers, that we may not see them in the third qualifier. We may have to wait till the fourth. They may have to try their luck then, and they kind of got to hope that the points that they've put up today are enough to keep them in the top 16. For now, we've had 2 teams qualify. 69 IQ in the first week, Kick in the second. What sorts of stars will follow can only be told from the future weeks. Jay Howes. That's going to be it for the EMEA broadcast, but we'll be doing NA a little bit later on. It's 1:38 where I am right now, so we got 20 minutes. 3.5 hours until NA kicks off, and you do not want to miss that. Congratulations to Kick. Bien hecho, tíos. And we will see you next time.